Good evening, and welcome to another exciting show. And we should have had an intro, but we haven't. Where is it?
No, you're going to get one. Hold on.
Am I?
Comes in at 1 minute.
I'm very excited. Does
Bang.
it?
Should do.
Wake up your mind, fill up your day.
Hey.
Smart little vibes that brighten your way. You're listening to Food for Thought Radio. Here at FFTradio.com. Cluck, moo, oink.
Brilliant. Thanks, Paul. Welcome to another exciting show. And tonight we have in the studio, we have the two Pauls. We got Anarchy and Paul English, and also Patrick.
Good evening.
And we've all got our trouser legs rolled up because it's we're going to talk about Freemasonry. Now, you're probably wondering before we start, why is this person looking like as if he's just gone skiing? Now, these these are my what they
it's a little weirder than that.
Yeah. Well, I think someone, I won't mention who, said I look a complete weird person, but not exactly in those words.
Merchant banker.
Yeah, a merchant banker, yes. Actually, they're blue blocking glasses. I got them off of eBay, and they're supposed to be the most efficient ones. They're called something No Cry, and they're bloody good. But the trouble is, everything looks yellow. But your eyes don't get strained, and you sleep better because they're blocking the blue light. So whenever I'm in on the computer, I put these on, and people say, "Oh, look, he looks like a merchant banker."
You need one of those visor hats.
Yeah. Well, look, like as I say, but as I say, let's have a quick look in chat. And I wonder if anybody else has called me a merchant banker.
Give it time.
And I think that Survival Stooge has just joined us in the chat. Have you, mate? That's Survival Steve.
Yeah, I'm here.
And mate, you can switch your camera on if you want. There'll be two of us because people are just all they're seeing is Jeremy, ironing table, and Fred the Plant. And what do you think of the health of Fred the Plant? It's not bad, is he? People said he looked half dead the other week. And
it's looking like Jumanji every day. Every time you come on here, I'm going to get to a point where we won't be able to see it. Just be Fred the Plant sat there.
You never know. Anyway, the first one on tonight is Mark Anthony, so I can see, and he likes my glasses. He says, "Nice glasses, Eric." So there we are. And oh, hello, we got problems with the chat. I can't actually show the chat on the screen for some unknown reasons. So Mark, you can have a 2-finger salute at any celebrity or politician of your choice tonight. And now, first, we're going to talk about Freemasonry. Now, I first became aware of Freemasonry through someone that married into my family, and I've got to be a little bit careful what I say now, even though I haven't spoken to him for 16 years, and whose father was a senior Mason and thought that they were absolutely the creme de la creme of society and spoke down. Well, he didn't, but his wife did. Spoke down to everybody, because everybody's below them because they're a senior Mason, of course. And it was all sort of winks and nudges and things like that. And I got the first edition of The Brotherhood, and they were hastily withdrawn and rewritten. And Stephen Knight, who wrote the Brotherhood book, he's no longer with us. I wonder why. Now, Steve, did you find in the army that there was a fair amount of Freemasonry? I mean, what's your view of Freemasonry, first of all?
What's my view?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Well, it's a very prolific international secret society, which is probably less secret than a lot of secret societies. It's quite well known. It's widely publicized. Everybody knows somebody in the Freemasons. Even I know people in the Freemasons. But at its lower levels, it's pretty. I would say, I'm going to say this in inverted commas, it's pretty harmless at its lower levels, even though that is not quite the case. But obviously at higher levels, this when power increases, the potential of having power to do the wrong thing increases. But in the army, I personally, it's a bit of a weird one, because I personally, the Freemasons never ever discussed. People I associate with didn't even know who the Freemasons were. But having said that, at a certain level in the army, certain ranks in the army, you could say, work or established within a sort of clique, which is very similar to how Freemason works. And as we'll discuss this evening, the military is massively based on Freemasonic principles. Massively.
Oh, yes. Well, what I've got here, I don't know what one to show first. I've got a film from 1943 that was actually shows a Masonic ceremony. And I've also got one from a chap who is talking about the police uniforms and where it came from. And apparently their uniforms are called Silito Tartan. And this chap, Silito, was a Freemason. And he designed it for the police, and he was in the police. So, Mark Anthony, he'll have, I think you better reword that, mate. He said, I'll have Peter Mandelson. Hang on, what I'm going to do, I'm going to change.
Please.
Yes, but let's do a two-finger salute to Peter Mandelson, or an American one, because he was going to be the American ambassador, British ambassador to America. Now, I'm going to change feeds because there's something wrong with the what do you call it? Rumble Stew. Here we go. It's going to go. I'm going to go silent for a little while as I change the feed. Here we go. That's it. Hello, what's that? Oh, hang on a minute.
There's two Erics.
That's it. That's better. I thought I cocked it up. I did cock it up, yes. Right, here we go. Now, first of all, what would you like to see first? A Masonic ceremony or the how they got their uniforms?
I'm easy.
What do you think? Anorak, Patrick, what do you want to see? Or Paul, are you still here, mate?
I'm still here.
I've seen the first one, so the latter about the uniforms might be interesting.
Okay, we'll do the uniforms first. Now, I'll see whether I can do this. There we go. And here we go.
Knight Commander of the Order of the British Empire. He was more influential over the structure of the police force than anybody else other than Robert Peel. So it's a little bit odd that he actually has no statue and no plaque. They say instead he has a living memorial being displayed on police uniforms around the world. When he introduced the check pattern to police uniforms in 1932, he was working as the Chief Constable for the City of Glasgow Police. The height of his career was becoming the Director General of MI5. So he was very good at keeping secrets, but was he a Freemason? Is there hidden meaning behind the pattern on a policeman's hat? Well, yes, there is, hence this video. But to find out, we're going to need to go down a rabbit hole. There it is. I've been down this rabbit hole for 2 days straight, and I can tell you that it leads to the very roots of pre-Freemasonry in Scotland, and also a dirty little secret in Imperial South Africa. Shall we?
Percy Sillitoe was born in London in 1888 and attended St Paul's Cathedral Choir School. When he was just 17 years old, he was sent to South Africa to work for the Anglo-American Oil Company, but after 3 years joined the British South African Police. During World War I, he fought against German East Africa. After the war, he suffered ill health and had to return to England. At least, that was the cover story. The reality was that when he was 23 years old, he started a romantic relationship with a girl from a local African tribe. She was just 13 years old. The relationship resulted in a child, a secret that this secretive man kept for his entire life.
Sir Percy Sillitoe, later in life, he wrote a memoir. It was called Cloak Without Dagger. And of course, he didn't mention the young girl. But what he did mention was the long boat journey he took back to England, where all of his companions were seasick and he didn't have anybody to speak to. And he was very concerned about his lack of prospects and going back to England without a job. Luckily, he says in his memoir, he was able to spend the month-long arduous boat journey with his old commanding officer, Sir Edward Northey. And Sir Edward Northey had been a military Freemason for over 30 years. I had incidentally the privilege of travelling home with my old GOC, for General Sir Edward Northey, who had formerly been GOC Rhodesia and Nyasaland troops, was now retiring from the governorship of Kenya and was returning to England on the same boat. A month-long boat journey when you're returning to England with a dirty secret and basically no job prospects. What do you think the content of those discussions were? Is it possible that Sir Edward Northey gave a man some advice on how to progress through life in England? Is it possible that he decided to help a man in need? I think so, because without any previous experience at all of British policing, and having been out the country for his entire adult life, the first job he got was Chief Constable of Chesterfield Police. Not just a constable of Chesterfield Police, Chief Constable, straight in there. Very odd. The internet will tell you that he wasn't a Freemason, or rather the internet will tell you that there's no evidence that he was a Freemason, but that's wrong. There is. The archived website of the Provincial Grand Lodge of Derbyshire reads, over the years, many mayors of Chesterfield and other prominent citizens of the town and district have been members. They include blah, 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 R. Kilpatrick and Captain, later Sir Percy Sillitoe, Chief Constables of Chesterfield.
Well, that just about sums it up. If I can find my way back from here. Here we go. Where am I? Whoopie-doopie-doopie-doopie-doo. Yes, that just about sums it up. Because how did a bloke who had no experience of policing become a chief constable? And that was by Sam Williamson. You can look him up on the internet. Please subscribe to his channel. He's a fantastic investigator, and he looked that up through. Now, he was quite thorough. I think his work is brilliant. So give him some support. He was a bloody good investigator, and he really does come over very good. So it's Sillitoe. And as I say, the police uniform is called Sillitoe tartan because it's black and white squares. And what do Freemasons have? Black and white squares. Now, Mark Anthony says, Eric, do you know you can get programs, apps that filter out the blue light on your computer screen or device? It beats looking like a merchant banker. Yes, I will look into that, mate. Thanks for telling me. Yes, I do look like a merchant banker. But I get a good night's kip, you see, because I don't have all this blue light going in my face. But now, Patrick, now I know the Catholic Church I'm not that keen on Freemasons. I wonder why. Can you enlighten us?
Yeah, usually, well, there's a long history with the Freemasons. The first thing was that I think it was in like the 1300s, they started to show up and were quickly excommunicated. And I think it was, they still to this day, I forget the name of the society that the young men join that are part of the Freemasons. It's,
Really?
oh, I'm trying to remember the name of the guy. So
I can't.
it's been a while since I've looked into it,
Mm.
but they have had a big part to play against the Catholic Church, and usually they go hand in hand with the enemies of the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
There's a good article from 1893 in La Civiltà Cattolica, where it's an article about the 100-year anniversary of the French Revolution and how the Freemasons were part of that whole revolution that took place, where they got rid of the French monarchy, the Catholic monarchy, and replaced it with what we have now today in the French Republic. So yeah, it's been a trialsome thing.
Now,
and you're excommunicated if you join them.
Well, I don't blame him being excommunicated. And people might think these might be Masonic glasses, because Nuki Brown says Eric looks like a character from a TV series from the 80s. I mean, I worked in an office once. Sorry, carry on, mate.
Oh, you look like you're ready to go to the gun range.
Yeah,
kind of stuff they'd wear. Yeah.
Lethal weapon.
Well, actually, Steve, I've got an apology to make. Because
Who, to me?
Yep. Not apology, but you've changed you've changed my viewpoint.
Okay.
Seriously.
On
Well,
on what?
You've helped to change my viewpoint. You see, I was brought up a pacifist, not to have guns, no killing. I was listening to what do you call it? Lark and Rose today.
Lark and Rose. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he convinced me that to get this scum out, it might be necessary.
Yeah.
And I thought deeply about what you said. So you never know. My view on that might be thawing. So there we go. So thank you very much for changing. This is what it's about. Information exchange.
So you're going to start carrying a toothbrush around everywhere you go.
Oh, no.
Sharpie.
No, I got me Sharpie here.
Sharpie,
That'll do it. So see someone with spots all over their face. I know I took the top off and started. Sorry, you're going to say, mate.
I tell you what, it would be worth bringing parts of this into the conversation tonight if it's appropriate.
Yeah.
But I mean, I very much advocate for the self-defense principle. So I don't view myself, even though I used to be a steely-eyed deliverer of death and destruction for a job for many years, I don't view myself as a violent person. Far from it. I was never, even though my profession was centered upon violence, I didn't regard myself as a violent person. I didn't get if I can explain, I didn't get a cheap thrill out of being violent, or I didn't find any pleasure in the bit that causes harm to other individuals. I was never, never found that. It was something that I
part of the job
presumed was a necessary evil. Yeah, but exactly, part of the job. But I didn't regard myself as being a violent person. However, my mindset changed because what I realized when I got to understand and embrace myself into natural law principles, which are the governing dynamics of how the universe is formulated, I realized that my understanding was completely off center. I was a violent person because I was working as a job doing violent and conducting violence. And what I didn't realize at the time was I was actually, how do I describe this? I was a moral relativist because I didn't understand the distinction between right and wrong, and I also didn't have any self worth. Because if I had self worth, I would realize that all men were created equal, and if somebody gives an individual, even if it's in a job, in a moral instruction, as in what everybody in the army does, immoral acts. If we are given an immoral instruction from a member of, let's just say, our organization who happens to be of a senior level, well, then the correct thing to do to be moral is to decline that instruction. However, nobody ever does. The police never decline immoral instructions, and soldiers never do. So fundamentally, both of these organizations are fundamentally corrupt in morality, and the only way they can improve upon morality is by leaving their jobs and realizing that they made a heinous mistake, as I had.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit like, in architecture, I was freelance, so I was chasing Danny Dollar all the time. And that wasn't a life, that was an existence. And you're like a hamster on the wheel, running faster and faster and faster and getting nowhere. And I woke up to that, and people thought I was absolutely bonkers when I woke up to that. But I mean, going back to Freemasonry, I worked in an office because the majority of people were Freemasons, because the two biggest professions in Freemasonry are police and architects. And there's only three of us that weren't Masons. And I actually got a Masonic handshake once. A bloke shook my hand and went, I wish I'd have done it back and seen what had happened, But I've got no evidence of what I'm about to say, and I've debated whether to say this or not, because I don't want to upset people. And I just wonder, with some aspects, not all Freemasons, could it be some form of homophobic, or sorry, not homophobic, homosexual type of thing? Because if someone came up to me and said, I'd like you to join this organisation, you say, well, what is it? What's its purpose? Well, you go into a room and you perform secret acts with other men. Really? And what is the objective? I'd run a bleeding mile. I thought, I don't want anything like that. And I actually wonder whether with all these, what they do, they open up demonic portals. Because I've found with the majority of Masons I've met, and I did work with a lot of them, they're very strange, very odd, something not quite, not the full ticket, I've found most of the time. And I just wonder whether they open up weird portals, because I've had, as I say, I'm writing a book about it. Well, I wrote a book about what happened, and I'm rewriting it now, because one of my relatives, I believe, is demonically possessed. And they got demonically possessed from someone who was the son of a Freemason, who I think is more than demonically possessed, is absolutely demonic. So, I'm trying to be as vague as possible here. I don't want to say who, on the internet. But
I've just posted 2 links in our
thanks,
chat,
mate.
to videos that I watched quite a while back about Freemasonry. And I think, like you were saying earlier on, Steve, the lower ranks, like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 degree Freemasons, they just think they're something special and they're doing something to help society. But I think the higher up they go, certainly sort of the 33 degree one, which we all know about, there, from what I've seen on these couple of videos and interviews and stuff that I've seen, you are right. They are demonic, and they have. I mean, this first one I've posted, it's a German guy, and he was walking. He was in the Black Forest, which is Freemason territory.
Is it?
And he was going there with a girl, and this bloke met them, and all this bloke did was touch the shoulder of this woman, and she dropped to the ground. So obviously they know how to control people through like different parts. But I suppose a bit like acupuncture, but in a sinister way rather than in a good way, if that makes sense.
Well, that just because to me, as I say, I don't know. Even though I've read the book, The Brotherhood, and that, it seems to me like witchcraft that they carry out. It just does seem like some form of witchcraft, which leads me on to: shall we see part of a Masonic ceremony? And this film was filmed in 1943, and after 1945, the director of this film was lynched, was hung by the Allies, and quite a few of the people were hung. So here we go, and I'll just turn this over. Here we are, and we will go into, where are we? Whoops, I pressed the wrong button here. Here we are, and
ne vous donne-t-il aucune inquiétude? Consentez-vous à le renouveler lorsque vous aurez reçu la lumière? Je le renouvellerai. Mes frères, nous allons donner la lumière aux profanes. Frères couvreurs, préparez-vous à accomplir votre mission. Que la lumière lui soit donnée à mon troisième coup de maillet. Néophyte, ces glaives que vous voyez tourner vers vous vous annoncent que tous les maçons voleront à votre secours si vous respectez et si vous observez.
right now, that's from a film called Forces Occultes, which was actually made in France in 1943 and financed by Germany. And the chap who, I'm not sure if it's the producer or the writer, was an ex-Freemason. And that is, I'll probably say, a cleaned version of the ceremony. You can see it if you go onto my YouTube channel. There's a link to it on there, and it's a very shortened version. And even though it's in French, there are English subtitles, so you can actually read the subtitles. I've seen the full film, and it's well worth watching. It's a very, very interesting film, and
Can I
it's
just
very
make a
well
quick
done.
note there as well?
Certainly, mate.
And anybody who's got Gmail, that
Yeah.
on the apron, the M on their aprons is the Gmail logo.
Whoa.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
And it's everywhere. I mean, I used to
Yeah.
work in the city, and that was on the that was, you see that horrible blue building sticking up there. Well, I actually worked. That they had an office there where it was being designed and built at the same time almost, and I designed the top bit. You know, I'm in Lower Thames Street, and all around the city is Masonic symbolism. I didn't
That's
realise
what
that at the
McDonald's
time.
as well. The M for McDonald's is Masons. Mm-hmm.
And
one thing, the colors of Freemasonry are the same as the Ukrainian flag.
They are.
It's yellow and blue, and together
Really?
they make green, which the Green New Deal, that kind of thing. You know, the Green Movement, all that is it's their color to get combined is green.
that's
Read
interesting.
about that in John Billington's book called Fire in the Minds of Men. He used to be our Librarian of Congress, and he
Really?
helped George Soros found the Open World Society.
Oh, what a nice man. Oh, by the way, Mark Anthony, I can't see Paul's links. After the show, what do you think, Paul? Do you think that'd be all right to put on Telegram?
Yeah,
or
I've put
not?
I have put them in the chat since. I was going to say to you, anybody who's locally in Shrewsbury may remember the Park and Ride buses, which were blue and yellow, and that's Freemason livery. And they've just replaced the bus shelters in Shrewsbury now, and all of them have got a blue and a yellow strip on them.
Hey, hang on a minute. Bus shelters around where I live, they're yellow and blue.
Freemasons, masonry colours.
And Aunt Sally said they only help their own societies, not the ones they live in. They run everything at a high level and make sure their people are directed at lower levels over the populace. Yes, and I like this idea of charity. You think how many people have used charity? Rockefeller, how he's introduced stuff, and Rothschilds. Oh, and Bill Gates Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Well, it goes back.
Marvelous.
It goes back even further, Eric, because I just looked it up. That the name of that man, his name was Jacques de Molay, and it was in the 1300s. He was part of the Knights Templar, and they were a charitable organization that let pilgrims go in safety to the Holy Land in pilgrimage, and they would fight off the Saracens and the Tartars and those types for their protection. And you mentioned sodomy. They were de Molay was charged with sodomy, and the whole organization of the Knights Templars in 1300, and he admitted to the crime of denying Christ and spitting on the crucifix. But he claimed to have denied the sodomy charges that were brought against the Templars up until the end, and he eventually, the prince of whoever prosecuted him, ended up burning him at the stake. And to this day, they created the Freemasons. Then I think it was in 1919, somewhere around there, created the Jacques de Molay Society, which goes to this day. It's de Molay International, it's called.
Really? Now, Blu-ray said, I went out with an architect, and weird would definitely be a good description. Well, you work in an office, and I've always said this, you can always tell the difference between the contract blokes and the permos. And it's the nearest thing to working in a lunatic asylum that you could ever wish to get to. They've got people that wear these yellow glasses that fit over. No, seriously though, it is the nearest to working in a lunatic asylum. An amount of bleeding nutters I've worked with, I mean, it almost sends yourself nutty. It really does. You know, I've worked in some places, and you know, for the money, and you think, bloody hell. So, yes, what, you know? I mean, people that sort of, shall we say, slightly strange.
well, we know that even like the royal family and stuff, they're all ruled by Freemasonry, which is why
Duke of Kent,
when the Queen's coffin was moved to Westminster Abbey, the scene was its coffin. I won't say its coffin on a checkered floor, black and white checkered floor.
That's right.
On an upside down cross, which is demonic, which is satanic.
Yes, and have you noticed Fergie's daughters? They wear upside down crosses.
Yeah, and with the gematria stuff that obviously Steve knows about as well, there isn't a news article that goes past that isn't linked to Freemasonry. And I mentioned before we came on air about the 3 rail crashes in Spain in January this year. One of them hit some masonry that had dropped onto the track, and another one hit a wall, which is made of masonry, which tells you who's involved. Which is why I stand by what I say about where I think train crashes aren't accidents; they're deliberate.
Yeah, I think you're right. And Aunt Sally, who's now a cultural attaché for tonight, has made a beautiful, excellent phrase here. bunch of weirdos. They probably bum each other.
Isn't that their slogan?
I used to work at Longacre, and their head office is at Longacre, and that was the office that I worked in.
The Freemasons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was at the end of of Longacre. The office, that was the office I worked in, where there was only 3 of us that were Freemasons. Oh, sorry, I excluded the secretaries, although there are female Freemasons, apparently. They have their own lodges.
The Rainbow, or the Eastern Star.
That's it, Eastern Star. And they had shops down there. If you went to the hairdressers, I don't know whether you could get your hair cut. Well, I didn't really need it. Well, I did those days because I had hair then. By a Freemason, I don't know whether you had to give a funny handshake or something, or drop your trousers, or if you had it done by a Grand Wizard or something, you paid more than if you had it done by one of the. It's all sort of like ranks, you know. So if a lower rank did it, you'd had a cheaper haircut. I don't know what difference it made. Yeah, it was a pyramid thing. But I mean, what do they do in these secret things? That they compare each other's willy or something? I mean, what exactly does these secret rituals do? You know, so drop your chairs. Here we go. I mean, again, what one of us would join anything that's all male that does secret things behind closed doors? What is the objective? Seriously, what is
any different than watching football? I mean, if we didn't talk about, if we didn't know it as football, and I said to you, I'm going to watch 22 blokes run around a field, you'd think that was weird.
Yes, chasing a ball.
Well, yeah. You know, a lot of the sports that we have in America are Freemasonic, like baseball. The diamond shaped thing is a Freemasonic type thing. I've heard. I've never really studied this too much. These are just the legends that I've heard. And the same thing with football. American football is a Freemasonic type game where they whoever came up with these rules, they were part of that whole organization.
That's right.
And in our country, we've had a long history of this. We actually had the Masonic and the anti-Masonic party, and they eventually became the Democrats and the Republicans. So
whoa! I
didn't
know that.
You didn't know that?
And did you know
1830?
And did you know that Clement Attlee, who was a Labour Party bloke who swept to power in 1945, was a Freemason? And you wouldn't have thought that with socialists, or that. I mean, Labour is equivalent for American listeners to Democrats.
I think the Masons were the first socialists, as far as the way they did things. I mean, because it was a secret society, yes. Because in Christian society, they had laws back. You go hundreds of years back. This isn't modern day. They had laws against Christians associating with Jews. And in order to do that, they had to keep it secret. And that's part of the reason that the Catholic Church has banned Freemasonry for a long time, since De Malay's day in the 1300s.
Really?
Knights Templar. They kind of hijacked the whole Crusades. The Crusades that took place to take back the Holy Land for the Christians, that the Pope initiated in the First Crusade, and then as time went on, it became more mercenaries, and it just dissolved into groups of these big merchant class type setups, like what do you have, the East Indian Company and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, East Indian, yes. Now, what was that you were saying about what do you call it? The colours, because
blue and gold.
Yeah, and Alex Goldges said Ukraine colours.
That's what I said. Yeah, blue and gold. That's the colours.
Yes.
And you look at that, like you said, the Gmail thing.
Yeah.
They wear that envelope in their apron, and it's blue and gold, and that's the colours of Freemasonry. But occulted because the colours blue and yellow create green, and green is the colour of Freemasonry.
And of course, And these colours are important to them as well, which is why
Yeah.
you
All of
have
this
the
stuff. They're into
Rothschilds.
gematria too. They're into all of that stuff
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you guys talk about.
That's
The
right.
Kabbalah. They're big into the Kabbalah, the Talmud, and Zohar, and all those kind of books.
That's right.
And it's prevalent in them.
And now, Steve, cat badges and things like that in the military, I notice a lot of them seem to be very Masonic. And the
What's a cat
interest-
badge, first of all?
Well, that's when they have berets. I mean, Steve will probably explain it obviously much better than I can. And they have like a badge on the top of a beret. Am I right there, Steve? I think that's right, isn't it? They have a badge on
that's
the
right.
beret.
Mhm.
And that was quite interesting because my dad was in the Devonshire Regiment, 231 Brigade, and they had a star as their cat badge, and their logo was Forever Faithful. And this star looked very much like a sort of star that we see quite a lot in the Middle Eastern country, which we're not allowed to criticise, which is weird.
Oh, that kind of star.
It looked like it. I mean, I'm not saying
You
it
mean
was.
the
I mean,
hexagram?
yes, it looked like it, but I'm not saying it is. But and that was a regiment. I mean, my dad was nothing to do with the type of people we're talking about. He was just a conscript that was conscripted in the Devonshire Regiment, very innocently as well. But there's lots of stars like that star from the Middle East in the forces. A hell of a lot. If you look carefully.
Well, the badges of police here.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
ahead.
You was going to say, Steve?
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Steve.
Well, let Patrick finish.
I was just going to say that the police, you'll notice their badges typically are the hexagram.
That's right.
Hexagon.
That's right.
Or
And you're going to say, Steve?
I mean, pretty much you can almost pick any subject or any organisation, and I can guarantee there's elements of Freemasonry within almost all of it. The whole of the armed forces is massively Freemasonic, even though I'll be quite honest, I never realised this for most of the time I was serving, and I'd imagine pretty much most serving soldiers haven't even got a clue. But it's all basically built upon the notions and symbolism of Freemasonry. As well, I mean, for example, you mentioned the beret. So the beret, and this isn't necessarily Masonic, but Masonry is just about secrets. Let's just say it's a secret society. It's based, as Patrick said, on many different things. It's a fraternity. It's based on an exotic blend of various, I'm going to say, quasi-religious traditions, such as he's mentioned Kabbalah, Gnosticism, Hermeticism, along with the arts and rituals that are associated with ancient Egypt. And of course, this kind of developed into what we understand from the historic context of the, or what do we call them? The Knights Templars. Patrick was talking about Jacques de Molay, who died, I believe it was 1307 on a Friday. Somebody mentioned in chat.
Yeah, Friday the 13th.
Yeah, Friday the 13th. I mean, a very specific number. It's also a very, it's also notionally honoured, if you like, because we have Black Friday, which is 33 days generally before the end of the year. I don't know if many people have realised this. I mean, Patrick, sorry, mate, but you mentioned about the Pope or the Catholicism who frown upon Freemasonry, yet sadly the Pope wears 33 buttons on his cassock, his tunic. And again, you could say that's notionally represents the age of Christ when he died, but it represents many things. And of course, that number is synonymous with the Freemasons. But before we kind of get into any of that, let's just mention the beret. The beret is based, the serviceman's beret. It's certainly in the UK. I know certain units in America and other countries have got a very similar thing. It's based upon the cult of the mushroom cult. And again, there was such a thing as the mushroom cult, just like there was a sun cult, a star cult, a moon cult, a sex cult, the mushroom cult. Why? Because certain mushrooms can help you transcend physical normality and delve into the realms of spiritual enlightenment. So many ancient priests wore headdress to denote that they were illuminated through entheogens, through the hallucinogenic effects of various mushrooms, magic mushrooms. The fly agaric is another one. Right. This even delves into early Christianity. Early Christian art denotes what we some might call the manna from heaven, the early stage of the early development of a certain mushroom is akin to the infant form of Christ in the manger. So this was this is kind of a long story. I'm cutting it short a little bit, and I've got nothing to back it up in terms of artwork to show, but I can certainly mention these things. But where was I going with that? When we salute as a serviceman, what do? We point to the cap badge, which is worn generally in the region of the third eye. And what do? You point to your Masonic symbol. This is the typical squaddy who hasn't got a clue what's going on. Mm-hmm. They point and they address to the officer who's known as Sir, the serpent. You address the serpent. Why? Because the serpent's got a lot of different understandings. Many people think, well, it's connected with slithery, slimy creatures. Yes, it is. But it's also connected with serpent wisdom. Serpent wisdom is part of the Kundalini rising. And we'll see that element, that symbol as well, significantly in many different themes, in many different branches of industry, you could say.
Now, that's fascinating. Now, we've just been joined by the bowler hat farmer. Good evening.
Good evening, Chris. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. And we're talking about Freemasons. Now, in farming, is there I mean, we've been saying rude things about Freemasons. I hope you're not a Freemason, because we've been saying very rude things, I do hope you've got your trouser leg rolled up there. And what exactly do they do behind closed doors? Do they compare each other's willy or something? I mean, what exactly do they do? But have you come across this in your career at all, mate? Oh, by the way, I like the backdrop with all the nice exposed beams and that.
Yeah, that's nice, isn't it? We've been blessed living here for a little while. No, not in the farming side, but certainly when I ran business breakfast meetings years ago, it was a very big thing. And I got invited once, Chris, to go, and I got blackballed by one of the guys there, and an interest in me, which is if they don't want you to join, is what they do. And that guy was my neighbour, and he was the head of the lodge, and not just the head of that lodge. He was the head of several lodges locally, and he invited me around for dinner about a week later and said to me, and he's dead and buried now, bless him. And he said, come round and have dinner. And I was a bit pissed with him, and I was like, not knowing enough about it as a youngster, and I got a young family. And he said to me, I don't ever want you to be involved in that, and I don't ever want you to put your children anywhere near it. And that was good enough for me. I thought, well, if you're high up in it and you don't think that I should be joining, that's good enough for me. Yeah. And it worked out, as I learned a little bit more along the way, that was just as well I didn't join, to be honest.
Yeah. Sounds like a lucky escape.
Yeah, exactly.
It does.
Exactly,
I mean, I've never been invited. Oh, by the way, you're probably wondering why I've got these Masonic glasses on. No, they're blue ray that stop the what's the name? What do you call it? Rays from the computer screen. That's why I look a complete
blue blockers.
Blue blockers, yeah. That's why I look like a merchant banker.
Mark, you sound really good. You sound good tonight.
But I was thinking, that's good. That's the main thing. Thanks, mate. And now the thing is, do you think that they are controlling governments, or they are part of government? Yeah. I mean, I've read the book, The Brotherhood. I got the first edition, which they hurriedly withdrew, and I managed to get that first edition. And Stephen Knight, as I say, he's dead now, and he showed you all the people in government that were Masons in Thatcher's government, and it was frightening, absolutely frightening.
Yeah, I think if you look at Freemasonry for what it was set up for, if you go back thousands of years, and I mean thousands of years, and I think somewhere along that it must have lost its way because when you look at, and I talk here from a historical point of view. I had a guy come to see me. I was working at Bury St Edmunds Market one day, and a guy came up to see me, and he said, he said, could you, American guy, and he said, could you direct me to the cathedral? And I said, yeah, sure. And I was just going for a break. I said, I'll wander down there with you. And I got talking to him en route. And this American guy said, I'm a stonemason. He said, and I want to go and check on the cathedral. I've got permission to go and meet this person. And they were going to check the cuts on the stones on the roof, because one of his ancestors had at some point, he believed, worked on the cathedral at Bury St Edmunds. And he was going to check the mason's marks, what were used then, and they're the same mason's mark that his family uses now. And that cathedral was built 1,800 years ago.
Bloody hell.
So I think it goes to show probably when they started it, and if you look at where Chequer Square was, for instance, in Bury St Edmunds, is right outside the front of the Abbey and the cathedral, literally right outside. And the Masonic Masonry Lodge was right out there. Now, presumably, hundreds and hundreds of years ago at some point, the Masons, which were building the place, had the Masonic Lodge as whether a pub, somewhere to stay while they were resting, whatever. And it must have been that at some point it was a genuine thing, but it must have got, like every other thing in the bloody world, transferred across, bought out, stolen, legitimized, whatever word you like to look at, use for it. At some point, it must have suddenly become something it didn't originally start out as.
I think you're spot on there.
Infiltrated.
And that's the word I was looking for. Sorry,
that's
Patrick.
right. Aunt Sally said, if you ever wondered why the same hole pops up in a road, gets fixed only to pop up again 6 months later. Yes, round where I live, that's always happening. Thank the Freemasons.
We were talking about this a few weeks ago.
That's right.
That tarmac is probably one of the worst things you can use for a road. If all our roads were concrete, they'd never need maintenance, would they? They'd just get on with it.
That's right.
They put tarmac down. It's absolute crap. It
is.
Every
I don't like tarmac.
Against it. It's crap, other than the smell of it when it's being put down. It smells nice.
But it came back. Apparently, someone spilt a load of tar all over the road, and that's how it came about. Someone thought, we could use that for the road. But thank the Freemasons, they get the contracts to fix them again and again ad infinitum. Yes. And you go to most local council meetings, and it's all nods and winks and nudges and things like that.
Well, I'm going to one this Tuesday night, actually, as a bit of a rocket in the arse of the local authority, because last time I went, I got banned and they removed me from the building. And the time before. And the time before.
Good for you, mate. I hate the bastards. I don't like using the hate, but I can't stand local councils. Mind you, I don't like governments.
If it's a council place, and technically it's a public place, so they can't really evict you from there anyway.
They shouldn't. Right. They can.
Yeah. Yes.
I just find it highly entertaining. I was just listening when I came on. I joined the when the gentleman was talking about the serpent side. That was interesting to hear, because I've not heard that. I love when I've gone different places around the country and heard different people speak about different topics and subjects. It always intrigues me how different words have been weaponized against us without us realizing the magic what's involved in the words. And that the gentleman was just talking about there about the serpent side. It was like, my ears pricked up. It was like, we just have no idea how much we're being played, do we?
We don't.
It's everywhere. The symbolism, I've been looking into symbolism as well, and that's everywhere. And the signage that goes everywhere, the eagle, and they all mean something in their world rather than our world. I was saying about the Gmail sign for the on the apron on the Masons.
Yeah.
It's every aspect of it, and even down to things like, I know I talk about trains quite a bit. British Rail had blue and yellow locomotives. Presumably that was Freemason owned at some point, and probably still is.
It probably is. But
do you know, Can I just put in there,
Certainly, mate.
Eric, just to pick up
Certainly.
on what Eric was saying before I forget, because there's so much involved in this symbolism that you blink and you miss it. But you mentioned briefly about actually I forgot which one you mentioned, but it was one of the computers symbols. But pretty much many of the symbols that we see are in what we understand from computers software, such as Google, the logo for Google. The logo for Google is it transliterates as 666, but it's also the Divine King symbol in Freemasonry, which is again it's very much like a 666 symbol, built around a sort of central circle, if I could describe that. But I think earlier you mentioned the Masonic M for like Gmail, the Masonic M. Yeah, that's the Freemasonic like the apron. It's the same colours.
Oh, that's
well.
right. Yeah, the apron. But
yes,
it's interesting what Sam. We call him Sam, shall we? Because I can't pronounce the rest
Williams.
of it. Yes, and he said, and I said, I heard from an ex-Freemason that they are liars. First, when you enter, they say we believe in this. Then after a certain amount of degrees, they tell you that in reality, they believe in something else. And
as part of the initiation, that's what
yes.
I've heard. And they make you swear by different things.
And also, was it they will cut your throat from ear to ear if you blab?
Leave.
Yes, very nice. Very charming. And remember,
Mason.
Look at the chap Caldy. Valdi. Do you remember who was found under Westminster Bridge with 2 pieces of masonry in his pocket? That was P2. That is the Italian
the
Freemasonry.
P2 Lodge in Rome, in the Vatican.
How often you see celebrities who've been killed, and the last picture they've been taken of is in front of a wall or something, which is obviously masonry as well. So,
well, George Harrison wrote a song called P2 Blues on his last album before he died. He was stabbed. There's another weird thing. So,
well,
there's a lot of that kind of stuff that goes on in pop culture.
That's right. Alice Gorgeous says, how are we going to get rid of them is what I want to know. And somebody else put in, where was it now?
I think you don't. You get them to just stop paying dues to the lodge, and once they stop paying dues, they're nobody to the rest of the lodge, and then they have them join us.
But the thing is,
have them become good,
Is it true all Masons serve a certain type of people we're not allowed to criticise? Quite possibly. And I've got to be careful what I say there. But no, really, what's happened, I think, is that they have got huge, and this secret, and I don't believe in government, no, but a little step would be to ban all secret societies from anybody that's a public servant. That's it. So if you want to be a public servant, you can't be a member. You can't be a member of a secret society.
Wouldn't. Probably be the quickest way to get rid of the civil service, wouldn't it? Because there wouldn't be any left.
You're right. You was going to say, Steve, what was it, mate?
Yeah, that's what Mr. H did.
That's right.
In World War II Germany. Well, I say he got rid of certain secret societies. The secret societies that didn't bend to the will of the Nazi parties and promote their aims and their eugenics operation.
That was one good thing, I think. Sorry.
Would you also not find that the Masonic lodges are in strange locations as well? I mean, we've got one in Stafford. The one in Stafford is literally the other side of the road from Stafford Prison, which seems a bit of an odd location for it. But then we've got one in Wellington here on Constitution Hill, which is the other side of the railway tracks. And across the other side of the railway line is a road called Regent Street, which has had a lot of issues with child
abduction,
underage sex and that sort of things going on in that area. And it makes you wonder whether there's actually tunnels, because all the Masonic lodges tend to be in old world buildings for the most part. So presumably they'll have tunnels. So it seems a bit odd that you've got this building on one side of the railway line and this massive news thing going on the other side. Makes you wonder if there's a bit of a link there, where there's a tunnel underneath the railway line that breaches. That's
Well,
all. Will
there's
they
a
even
lot of
blame
that
the
kind of
people
stuff.
on that?
Here in America, we have a lot of that. In St. Paul, Minnesota, the biggest lodge there is right by the main rail section of the railroad, and it's huge. You have all sorts of things, even in our town. Even the building where I work, it was purchased, by the post office from the Oddfellows, which were a kind of a breakaway from the Freemasons,
Really?
and it's all over if you look for it, because it was such a big part of our country. Like I was saying earlier, before 1830, we had these two parties. They were the Masonic Party and the Anti-Masonic Party. One became the Democrats, which were the Masonic Party, and then the Anti-Masonic Party became the Republicans. But I would say that they were all kind of like merged together eventually, but just like they are today.
I didn't know that, but I mean, Sam, when she said when Sam said, I heard that an ex-Freemason, that they're all liars, and that person, and Sam went on to say his name was Stephen Bleat, died in a strange way, suicided. Now that's interesting, isn't it? That's quite.
Well, the thing that kind of got people to be anti-Masonic here in America was the Captain Morgan affair, which was this Freemason that was killed, and it just like became big news, and everybody was appalled by it. And it was, I think, it was a case of him betraying another Mason, and he ended up, like you said, murdered, and it just repulsed a lot of people, and they formed a anti-Masonic party, and the Masonic party too. I could go into it. I probably shouldn't, because I can get you guys in trouble for a lot of this stuff of what they ended up becoming later on. I mean, there's a lot to do with the Civil War, and you had Freemasons on both sides advocating for war to keep two sides fighting each other rather than coming to some sort of peace.
Now,
we get this stuff
the
today.
Rothschilds were part of that, weren't they?
Yeah, well, yeah, the Rothschilds are part of that. But it's like today. I just want to make one point.
Yeah, I was going to say very quickly, your mic is a tad low. That's Alice Gorgeous. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what she said.
Mine?
Yeah. Patrick, your mic volume. No, so I'm sorry to chime in. I hope you don't think I'm rude, but I thought I'd better come in with that.
Oh, I didn't know that. So,
yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah. I don't know what I can do to fix that, but
I might
shout.
do it.
Shout.
Yes.
Yeah. How about now? Any better?
Oh, that sounds better here. Yeah, that's a lot better.
Okay.
Sorry, you were saying, mate.
Yeah, well, we had the...
Too loud. Sorry, down a little bit.
Sorry about that.
Stop shouting.
How about now?
That's perfect. Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Sorry. My apologies.
No,
we had the Masons had a lot to do with the Civil War, and there was a lot going on as well in Europe at the time of the American Civil War. You had in America, we had I think he was Confederate General Albert Pike, was a well-known Freemason, and he had a lot of
Hatches just mentioned it. Yes.
He had a lot of correspondence with Garibaldi, who was taking over the Papal States from the Pope and forming the Italian Republic, which is, he was involved with, have you ever heard of Madame Blavatsky, Helena Blavatsky from Ukraine?
Yes.
She was a big part of that, and she was said to be one of the forerunners to building up the Nazi party in Germany and coming up with a lot of the occultish type stuff. But there was a lot of that going on, and Italy, as a consequence, after the Pope was deposed of the Papal States and confined to the Vatican City, you can see a lot of evidence of Masonic influence in Rome, especially like Victor Emmanuel was a Freemason. There's just, you look in the architecture of Rome itself, there's a lot of Freemasonic influence. Like I said, Garibaldi. And then Mazzini, there was a famous letter from Albert Pike to Mazzini
That's right. 3 World
stating
Wars.
how the 3 world wars would initiate, and there's more that you can go into. There's the big one is that we're dealing with right now today in America is the B'nai B'rith form of the Lodge of Freemasonry, and that has had a large history, especially with the Anti-Defamation League and the whole Leo Frank case that started that back in the 19-teens during World War, the build up to World War I, where it was. Yeah. So
all links up, doesn't it?
It does. There's a lot. But I would say that they're kind of an obsolete revolutionary organization as it is now. I think a lot of them are fairly innocuous. You see the Shriners driving around with their funny hats, their fezzes in the car, and driving in little cars and parades today. I think a lot of them are fairly harmless, but at the same time, it's just like the people that in charge of the revolutions and things like the Rothschilds and that, they're still going. But they don't need them anymore. They're obsolete.
You got a point, but look at all the famous people that are were or are Freemasons. They reckon all the astronauts that stepped on the non-existent moon that they to go to, that they went to the moon in a
yellow submarine
and yellow submarine. Yeah, they were all Freemasons. And if you look on there's a lodge in London. I looked it up, and Rick Wakeman was one of the head honchos there.
Musician.
Yeah, the musician.
See, a lot of these people are fairly harmless today, though. You look at it; they're all actors or musicians or whatever they are. It's not like they're really doing anything.
But the problem is
lying.
They're not harmless, are they? Because they're the people now who have got the power.
Right.
If you take an actor and he stands on stage and does a good performance, everyone goes, "Oh my God, he's like God." A singer these days, through their words, has the ability to change someone's thoughts. There, and I think
you're spot on, mate.
They are the kind of new gods, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which, when you think about it, that's a form of mind control, which is what the Freemasons are all about.
Yep.
So when you think about it, that's what music does. Music in itself, I was talking about something on the train yesterday, that music, the words they use in music, affect how you feel, which is mind control, which is exactly what the Freemasons are all about.
That's why you had things back in the day like Abbey Road Studios, where they had Enrico Caruso going on and making records to get everybody amped up for World War I. They had this song called Over There, over there, we're going to go over there and, take over, and we're not going to come back until it's over there. It's just, it's a way of propagandizing people and getting them revved up for wars. So I do see your point, but as far as like what they're actually doing, it's not like they're like slitting people's throats themselves. They're getting other people to do it for them.
They'll probably end up being on the receiving end of it at some point, though, because all celebrities do.
Well, there's a final analysis where God's going to judge them after their death. That's what I believe. So all these wicked people are going to get their comeuppance one day.
Jesus, he's going to be busy, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Now,
next.
Mark Antony said Admiral Richard Byrd, Byrd, the polar explorer, was an active Freemason. Yes, there's a plaque down there dedicated to him. He was a Freemason, but also Laurel and Hardy were Freemasons. John Wayne was a Freemason. There's a hell of a lot that you don't realise. 33 degrees.
I think it's fair to say that if you're on telly, if you've got number ones, if you're high in the football and sporting world, you're a Freemason. They don't get there because of skill; they get there because
I think there's a certain list what came out in the last couple of weeks, isn't there? As more information's coming out about that list, it's becoming quite apparent that if you were anybody, you were on the list anyway. And there wasn't very many people who aren't on the list or aren't named in it somewhere.
Well, that's
right.
What
I've always been interested is on that one is what's his name? Stephen Hawkins, because he's on the list. But what was he? Their taxi driver. Because he couldn't have been much else for anything else.
That's right. I mean, he couldn't really raise a smile. But Rocky Road to Love said the NASA press conference they did after they landed on the moon was like a funeral. Yeah, I've seen that. And Collins said to Patrick Moore, he didn't remember seeing any stars. Really? Yeah, he flew all that way.
The Moonlanders was a massive Freemasonic ritual, but again, most people are probably not aware of that. They might have noticed that the Apollo 11 space rocket was coloured black and white to correspond with the black and white checkerboard floor, which, as you mentioned earlier, was the tartan of Freemasons. But here's an interesting point for you. I mean, most people associate the number 33 with Freemasons, but number 22 is also massively important in secret societies. Number 22 is the second master number. It's actually known as the master builder. So here's a little bit of numerology for you. Black and white. Let's add the numbers up. The numbers, if we add up black and white, I'm going to have to check my notes on this, because I forgot the numbers off the top of my head. But if we add up the numbers of black and white, we get in numerology, we get the number 29 for black, and we'll get the number 65 for white, and then we can render those down to 11. You might recognize that number. Many people, anybody in there, when this
wasn't that Armistice Day? Wasn't that Veterans Day? Or okay.
Yeah. It's a very significant number in occultism. I mean, because 1111 equates to 22, which is the master builder. It's the number which is associated with manifesting dreams into reality, you could say, which is why you see 22 players on a football pitch, because 22 people, the red team and the blue team, to keep the again, as it's because it's another Freemasonic sport, to keep the masses dumbed down, in keep them in clown world, to keep them from bread and circuses, to prevent people from reaching the levels of illumination. 33, which is a number that is associated with the high echelons of illumination, which is why Jesus died at 33, which is why the Pope wears 33 buttons on his tunic, which is why we see that number 33. I mean, if you look at the McDonald's drive-through, you go to a McDonald's, you'll see 2-letter M's, M and M, and we'll see that number a lot. Meghan Markle, Marilyn Monroe, many other celebrities and important people with the numbers M and M. But what does that equate to? That's Master Mason, or Mason's mark. Mason's mark, Master Mason. The Master Mason is the 3rd degree, the highest degree, even though people who will talk about the 33rd degree is actually only 3 degrees in Masonry.
In New York, right? Sorry.
But
the Scottish Rite is 33.
Yeah, but it's kind of a notional thing. There's not like it's 3 main degrees. To be the Master Mason is the 3rd degree. And again, I'm not speaking as an expert here, because I'm not a Mason. So there might be Masons watching this thinking, oh, well, he's got those facts wrong, or this, that, and the other wrong. I'm not an insider, and I can't give inside information. But I was in a secret society myself for about 25 years. So I understand. How
the military.
Yeah, but
But when you interrogate somebody, of course, you give them the 3rd degree.
Yeah,
that's a very good point. But let's face it. One quick thing I was going to say is, I wonder if Rupert Lowe is a Freemason.
Yeah, Eric, you were saying Rick Wakeman was a Freemason. You were telling
he is a Freemason. Yeah, and also Jim Davidson. Because there's a conspiracy theory. Some people think he was a comedian, but I don't know. What do you think? Do you think Jim Davidson was a comedian?
Well, I wanted to say something about Rick Wakeman. You mentioned that all of the astronauts were part of the Freemasons. Well, Rick Wakeman was involved in that song that David Bowie did, Space Oddity. He did the Mellotron part of it. That's just it's an interesting tidbit. I didn't realize that he was a Freemason, because then it makes sense. It makes some sense that they're all part of this whole scheme to get people believing that we went to the moon and all that.
Well, Buzz claimed.
It's interesting that the moon landing was day 201, and the Freemasonic order equals 201. Right. And you mentioned 29. I'll send to you on Chris. I've been looking into rail crashes, and Chester in particular seems to have been a hotspot for rail crashes in the late 60s and early 70s. And a couple of the ones I looked at, there was a space of 2 years, 9 months, and 29 days, which is 29 and 29, which is Masons or Masonic. But Chester as a place links to Freemason. The name Chester matches Freemasonry, and I'm intrigued to know what the significance of Chester is, because obviously the word Chester appears in a lot of towns and cities across both here
You've
and
got
America.
a good point.
Chester's to do with the Roman army, isn't it? Chester was a garrison.
That's right. That's a good point, mate.
If it was a Chester town, then it was a garrison city.
Because
that's interesting.
In between Crewe and Chester, you got a place called Beeston Castle, and there was a rail accident there. And you know this tram and bus that collided on Friday? That was a place called Chilwell, which is in Beeston, in Nottingham.
Yeah, you got a good point.
I think there might be some link to these places. I don't know if they're on ley lines or they're important. They're important to them.
Well, there's two lines, isn't there? There's ley lines and there's energy lines, and they're very different. And it's the energy lines. Now, I think you know something about that, Mark, don't you? Because when I went to Suffolk, to your farm there, and saw Suffolk, and I saw that fantastic, what do you call it, that culture,
electro culture.
And that as well, yeah. I saw that. And that bleeding great, was it a marrow or something he was walking along with? I thought, what the?
No, that was
I said, that's a beauty. That's a big one, that is. Oh, he's got a big one there, and he? Wow. And, but when you think about it, do you think Masons are behind this? I mean, what is really going on where they're trying to starve us out? I mean, I bought some cucumbers the other day from Spain, where I live in Lee Valley. It's one of the biggest cucumber growing areas in Great Britain. Why the bleeding hell couldn't they actually got it from just up the road instead of importing it all the way from Spain? I mean, it's bonkers.
Well, one of the problems at the minute is, Chris, that they've, because of intentional bad management, and it is intentional, we all know that. There's no bad management about it. Our energy has got so expensive in the UK that we now can't afford to produce food through the winter. So we have to be reliant on other countries that may be able to send it into us at a bit more sensible price. Now, the challenge is, as we roll forward, how we now better that situation. And, obviously, I've been writing an agricultural policy for one of the parties, and it's been interesting to have to dig into what DEFRA's up to, dig into what the government's up to, and dig into what a lot of the historical side of what's gone on to see how we actually got here. And when you look at, I always said 2026 was going to be the year of starvation. And I think the food will start to dry up this year. And
I can see it happening now.
And we're going to see over the course of the 2027 will be when they start to withdraw the amount of food we can import. 2028 will be the point where we go, now we're in trouble because food resources have run out in the country. There isn't any stockpiles anymore. Obviously, when we were kids, we're all of a pretty similar age, guys. When we were kids, we had milk mountains, grain mountains, cheese mountains, the butter mountains. We didn't know what to do with the food. Now we haven't got anything. Nothing at all. So I think now what we're going to start to see is, and that's one of the reasons they're making so much synthetic food in Western civilization, because they've done such a good job of killing off the farmers, getting rid of the good quality food. Now they're topping it up with synthetic food, and a factory can be shut down at any point. All you need to do is just turn the switch off.
Yeah.
And if you're going to say, and at the moment, all of the big bodies around the governments around the world are all saying we've got two big things which are going to be a problem in the forthcoming year: cyber attacks and power outages. Both of those are designed to bring down our food system. And, and we can see it unfolding in real time, and everyone just keeps going, oh, it's not going to happen, not to us. The problem I think we've got, Chris, as Englishmen, is we genuinely believe, most people, I wouldn't say us on here, but most people still believe we're the top of the food table. And unfortunately, it's a long time since we were top of that food chain. And as a direct result of us now no longer being at the top of that food chain, other people have got control over anything and everything we do, especially food.
I think we need a show, preferably tomorrow, with Steve, yourself, myself, talking about when the food will disappear, because I don't think it's going to be gradual. I think it'll be instant. You're going to go down to the supermarkets and just find empty shelves. I do believe that.
Look, you've only got to drop, if you drop the electricity out, because of how the food system now works, if you drop out the electricity, like in 2020, that was a test to see how quick the food would run out of the system. It was designed to see how people behaved. Well, now they know the answers to that. If they now take out the electricity, instantly stores can't reorder food. Instantly, supply chains break down. It's instant. Within minutes, there's issues. And there is no way now, with the food system being as big as it is, there is now no way to stop that happening. And that's why I say to people, know your local farmers. Know your local farmers, know what you've got in the pantry, know you've got some seed to be growing for. People say to me, oh, but Mark, I can't grow anything at the minute because of all the shit coming down from the skies. Listen, I guarantee you can still grow something, and you need to find out pretty quickly, in my opinion, how to do that. If you're not going to be able to grow something what needs a lot of sunshine, grow something what likes a lot of shade.
What about peas? I'm going to go, this year I'm swapping from tomatoes to peas. Because,
why would you not grow tomatoes?
Well, I've gone off them a bit because they're very bad for arthritis, apparently.
Not yellow ones. Yellow ones aren't.
Aren't they? And what about
one? They're really good
and what about the seeds that grow inside you? That's put me off a bit, that has.
Well, yeah. I mean, I did tell you about my dad having to go to hospital about that, didn't I? At 57, same age as I've just been, and
really,
he had to go in hospital. Seeds were growing in his stomach, inside the polyps in his stomach.
Oh man.
And he went into hospital, got rushed into hospital, been really, really poorly. And when they opened him up, he'd got all these tomato pips growing inside the little linings inside his stomach. And he was like, bless him. He nearly died, bless him. But I think that, there's a lot of misconception about tomatoes. Red tomatoes are extremely bad for the heart and extremely bad for digestion and so forth. Yellow tomatoes are exactly the opposite. Really, really good for you. And if you can't have the pips, take the pips out. You still eat the flesh of the tomato.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, yellow tomatoes are really good for you.
And also, Steve, you believe you can eat, what is it, thistles, the actual, the stem. Yes, I have. Yeah. And it tasted like, excuse my language, it tasted like dog shit, actually.
Maybe you've got one a dog would wipe his arse on.
I'll tell you what is easy to grow. And that is, if you go to the supermarket and buy one of their crappy celery sticks with a root, you cut all the sticks off, cut the root off, and shove it in some water. And about a week or two, you shove it in some soil, and you grow it on. You've never tasted celery like it. It really is peppery and lovely. So you can grow celery.
Celery, predominantly what they sell in supermarkets, is grown in water. It's all hydroponic stuff. So it's got no flavour, it's got no taste, it's got no earthiness. And the problem is that if you want to grow good quality nutritional food, it needs to be grown in good quality nutritional soil, not in bloody water.
Well, it's interesting you were saying about that, Mark, with the food chain. I mean, all the constant spraying and rain we've had over the last 4, 5, 6 months, everywhere's now completely flooded. So you can't take a tractor onto a field and plough stuff because it's because everywhere's flooded.
I know this is only part of a conspiracy, but I'll just tell you something quickly. If you look into it, there was a project launched called Reseeing. And reseeing was all about reflooding the countryside so that people couldn't produce food on it. Sandy Adams did a brilliant talk on it, and it's a big thing. It's out there. This is why places like on the Norfolk coast up at Hemsby, the sea defences have all been deliberately allowed to go, because when it floods in, it takes back the land, and it covers thousands of acres if that little sea defence goes. And over the last 20 years, the sea defence is down to 10% of what it was 20 years ago. Devon, Cornwall, Lincolnshire, most of Lincolnshire, bear in mind that most of Lincolnshire was reclaimed land back in the 1700s. Exactly the same thing. And again, they're allowing all the Environment Agency won't allow farmers to clean rivers, dikes, ditches, rivers, anything at all. And that's all part of this reseeing program. So they allow it to flood. No one can then get rid of the water. They then can't set the seed. And we end up with 40% of the land underwater. And we can't do anything about growing on it. That's what we're up against.
And they would say that's climate change, all the ice caps melting.
Absolutely.
I want to... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, mate. Carry on, mate. Yeah, carry on, Steve.
Well, I'll be quick then. This would be a great...
Take as long as you want.
Well, sorry for intruding if I intruded on anybody.
No, not
but I'll
at
be
all.
brief. So what we're talking about here is, if we were to boil down what we've been talking about here is, there's a group or an organisation who are really trying to F things up pretty nastily for the human race, i.e. if they're trying to starve people out, or they're flooding the plains to make the land ungrowable. That's a pretty heinous thing to do. It's not very godly, is it? It's not in the best interests of the people. But one thing we've also talked about is, and I'm talking about, and again, Mark, I don't know if you know my background, but I was a professional soldier for many years, and obviously I class myself as a whistleblower against the military, who I would equally call, and again, Alex Gorgeous has mentioned, will the police and the military do something now that the government are trying to starve the people because it's a war crime? The answer to that is no, they'll definitely not do anything, because the government will still pay the police and the military, and they'll treat them like kings while everybody else is suffering to keep them on side. And these people are so brain dead and retarded, and I'm going to really use capital letters for the word retarded when it comes to the police and the military, because that's the best description I can give to them, other than something really that's effing and blind, which I'll try to refrain from here. Police and the military will just shit on people till the end of time, because that's how stupid they all are. So I hope that answers that. So one thing we have determined, the government, the police and the military are not on our side. But one thing we've been kind of, if you were to say, how have we been kind of angling our conversation, bearing in mind we know that there's certain organisations trying to crap in our nest. Well, we're talking defensively. So if we were to talk about military strategy, the entire human population, give or take, sort of Minutemen groups in America and perhaps prepping communities who are armed with battle rifles, have a good idea that they're prepared to defend themselves, knowing that there is hostile groups acting as enemy combatants to deceive them or to see them off. Our government are seeing us off. As a nation, we are being seen off by our own government. We've got dumbos, the police and the military, who are seeing us off and seeing their own families off. That's how stupid these imbeciles are, seeing their own families off, because they don't understand that. Well, to boil it down, what they don't understand is the natural laws of the universe, and they don't understand the distinction, the moral distinction between right and wrong. If they understood right and wrong at a deep level, and bear in mind it's not complicated, but if they understood it, they would realize that nobody's got the right to treat anybody badly without consequence. But what we're not doing as a movement, we're talking defensively. Oh, look what these evil people and nasty people are doing to us. But what are we doing? And no disrespect to anybody, but
we need to be on the attack.
That's right. That's right. If we're growing crops, which is a great thing, I agree with that. I grow crops myself. If all we're doing is growing crops in response, what we're not doing is we're not on the attack. You'll never win a war if we're on the defensive. It's a fundamental impossibility. Sun Tzu will tell you, if you're going to be on the back foot, you're eventually going to fall over and you're going to get trounced. And that's what's happening to society now. We're not speaking assertively, and we're not trying to dominate the battlefield.
I think you're spot on. You're spot on, mate.
Do you not think though? Because I did a speech the other night and I was talking about this exact thing. One of the things which does come out of it is that they've had 100 years to plan what's going on. Well, probably 100 years that we know of, and to put it into place. We've had, this is our 6th year since 2020 to realise what's happened. All right, a lot of us knew before that, but the biggest majority of the public didn't. So we're into a position now that it's taken 6 years. And I think I don't think we do have another 6 years, right? But I think if we had another 6 years, we would be fully organised to fight this back. What we've got to find is a solution to bring that 6 years into the next probably 6 months. And that's where the key to all this sits. You know, from our side, we've built the Food Finders Hub so people could find out locally where their food is. We've built the radio station so that people can start to understand there is different communication levels. We've built an online school now where we're teaching people about growing food and producing food. All of these things are all heading in the right direction. And lots of people I've seen now that are in the lawful and legal side of things, which are building platforms for people to be able to download all the information they need. Things are heading in the right direction. And there's different groups all over the country now that there's one network called the Mycelium Network, for instance. I'm a member, you know, and we go along to that, and they're the group organised and kind of like all the people who were the leaders for the Park Brigade back in 2020. And they're all the leaders from them across the country coming together to hear what's going on and find out how to fight back against this bullshit. And I think you're right. The problem we've got at the minute is we're on the back foot. They know it. They're pushing hard against the 2030 agenda to keep us on the back foot. And what we've got to do is be able to be prepared to now, in my opinion, we've either got to come out fighting or roll over. And the rollover is accept digital currency, accept digital ID, you know, accept closed borders, 15-minute cities, you know, you're not going to have a car, you're going to be happy, you won't have any food, all them things. And I don't want none of that fucker.
Okay. The Mycelium group, is it Marcel?
Mycelium, as in like the spidery web stuff under the ground.
I understand. Okay.
Yeah, if you remind me, Chris, just ping me a message later and I'll send you the details for it.
It's interesting.
Okay, so I want to say something. There's no progress outside of the moral order. The only thing that's going to get you out of this is getting back to a moral society. Otherwise, there's nothing that can stop what's happening. You have a big problem. We have a big problem. What right now? 48% of pregnancies in the UK end up in abortion. You're killing off your people. You need to tell people, stop. Okay, go ahead.
What I was just going to say on that, I think as Christians, whether you're practicing or not, as a Christian and brought up under a Christian household and a Christian religion, we believe that Christianity is about love, life, energy, and certain other people do not believe that. So if you look at over the past 50 years, birth is a classic example. You know, my partner's Nigerian. She'll tell you the fact that Christians are brought up to, you know, well, we have 1 or 2 family, you know, kids per family, and, you know, don't step outside of that. You can't be unfaithful. You've got to be, you know, respectful to your partner. Muslims aren't taught that. Muslims are taught, well, you can have as many wives as you want and have 50 kids because someone else is keeping them. And so we've ended up that on a moral aspect now that they've used the Muslims against us, against Christianity, and they don't want them. It's a bit like the Muslims having the alphabet brigade, you know, the LGBTQ to whatever they are these days, the alphabet family. They don't want them any more than nothing, but they'll work with them. But in the background, we've had everything. The family unit's been destroyed, hasn't it? You know, we've not. Everyone's, you know, abortion's high, contraception's there now. Everything to stop Christianity as the morally strong ground in the world to survive. And that's, I think, that you're right. We've got to get back to really, really strong values, and that isn't going to come, unfortunately, from most of the people on the left of, you know, where we are at the moment are just not morally driven.
And of course, the biggest thing we have is the enemy have the mainstream media on their side who get to like promote things like pride and all that crap which obviously if you've
All the
got
bullshit what doesn't produce people.
Yeah, exactly. Like we were saying about the Masons promoting sodomy.
Yeah.
So do you know what I mean? I agree entirely with Patrick. Is the answer and the solution to all the world's problems? And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say we'll suddenly live in blissful harmony, but we'll certainly live in a place which is less tyrannical, with less influence from things like secret societies and Satan worshipping lunatics, which is what the current state of affairs is. However, that answer, and again, this could be a long story, so I'll go for the short answer here. The answer doesn't lie with any religion, and I mean, I will frankly state that. And again, I can't really do this over a 2-minute discussion or dialogue. All religions really divert people away from what's known as natural law. To some extent, all religions will teach this and will have some degree of understanding of it, but it won't give a strong enough definition in order for a congregation, let's just say, to come with a very plain and simple context of how this works. So to summarize certain things in natural law, what I will say is, no, if all men are created equal, why do we treat some men or some organizations as more equal? So, for example, if we were a truly moral society, which is what Patrick was mentioning, and I perfectly 100% agree on that, we need to have a more moral society. We can never have a moral society. In simple speak, we can never have a moral society if we have a society that is governed by any form of authority. It cannot work. It cannot work in nature. It is an impossibility under the dynamics, the governing dynamics of how nature is formulated.
Save God's authority, though. You're right. You're right.
Well, yeah.
But you
I
also agree with me on that. You agree with that, yes?
100% on that. God's authority. So if we were working at God's authority, and this is the big sort of stumbling block, I think, with and don't get me wrong, please don't take offense if anyone's religious.
No, I don't take offense at all.
I don't take offense.
All right.
No.
So if we assert ourselves upon God's authority, well, God's authority is natural law. So if we all believe in God and we want to work to the moral values of the Creator, well, then we have to worship, and I'm just going to say that in inverted commas, we have to worship God's moral authority, which is through the laws of nature, which is, well, one is a principle on all men are created equal. So if all men are created equal, well, why are we treating the government as our lords and masters? We should be treating the Creator as our one and only Lord and Master, but we're not. So all men are created equal. So that means let's just say government, if a government, an official from government, give a society or individuals immoral instructions. So I'll mention one immoral instruction: tax. Tax is theft. No matter how you look at it, no matter what the plus sides of things might be, if you take the product of another man's labor and give it to somebody else based upon deceit, that is theft. So if we condone theft, because everybody who supports government, everybody, whether they know it or not, if you support government, you support immorality, because you support violence and you support theft. So therefore, the whole human race, in effect, unless you're a complete anarchist like me, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm the blank save the perfect example or role model of how society should be, because I've been a practicing Satanist pretty much my whole working life, when I was a soul dead individual working for the government. But I didn't understand these things then. But if we support government, we are condoning evil. We are condoning all the transgressions of natural law. So therefore, we can't have a moral society. But in addition, if we don't understand that, we should, at least if there's a takeaway from this, we should know that there is actually a law in nature which determines that as morality declines, freedom declines. This is a constant. It can be scientifically proven, and there's even a mathematical formula to determine it. So if we want more freedom, we need more morality. The two work hand in hand. But here's the last part of this is legislation. There's no element, there's not one piece of man's legislation that can alter morality. Morality is objective in nature. It cannot be changed. It is a distinction. And if government legislation, whatever that might be, and let's just say, for one, they're trying to flood grasslands to make it to make it unproductive for crops. Well, that's completely immoral, and it doesn't matter what Lincoln Act or statute justifies that. This needs to be disobeyed. If we were a moral society and we were truly God-loving citizens, we would disobey all these illegitimate instructions of people who don't have the right to have any authority over us, and we would just act in a total act of defiance and rebellion. But we're not nowhere near that yet, and sadly, neither is what you could say the Truth Movement. The Truth Movement don't understand these points, so therefore, what we're doing is we're becoming. I use the expression combat ineffective because I'm a military background. So in military, if I saw a bunch of people, a bunch of combatants who were combat ineffective, it'd be like, right, lads, ditch the catapults, we'll just take pea shutters because this is going to be a walk in the park because these blinking losers have got no fight in them. They've given up, and that's where we're at. We need to have an assertiveness by understanding natural law and putting it into practice through our actions.
Well, backing you up here is Alex Gorgeous. He says, can we exercise morals with murderers after us? We need to be ruthless to survive. And she has a very good point there.
Well, we have to take care of our own. And in a sense, we have this idea of where we don't want usury. We don't want... usury is nothing more than having, all loans, there's no shared risk in a loan. Say Mark wants to plant carrots in a field, and he comes to me, he wants a loan to do that, and I say, well, you got to pay me back 10%, and that money, I'm not at risk. That money is going to come back to me anyway because he's going to have to pay me back what he borrowed. Right. But if I say to him, Mark, I want to invest in a carrot business and let's do this. I'll give you the money, but I want part of the yield. And then he could say, yeah, that's worth it to me. And then there are ways around this that are moral, that aren't involving in state-sponsored usury, which is nothing more than capitalism.
That's spot on. But the
pure
thing
capitalism.
You're an expert, Steve, in military matters, and you're quite right. I mean, when you look at what Song Tzu was saying, you get so much negativity. And this is the reason why they're pumping so much fear porn out at us. Oh, this, oh, that. And then we got this other Rupert Lowe coming out with a load of, I'm sorry. I heard Margaret Thatcher coming out with that. I heard Tony Blair coming out with all his waffle. To me, trying to change the system from within, you might as well think that you can convert all the mafia to Jehovah's Witnesses. It'll never happen. It's got to come from outside. But the thing is, when you look at situations, you look at Vietnam, for example. The Vietnamese had, and I'm not supporting communism, don't get me wrong, I'm just looking at it from like a sort of fly on the wall. Everything was against the Vietnamese because the American military was so huge. They were carping bombing North Vietnam. But men on bicycles with little hats and basic AK-47s beat the Americans, who were the most advanced army. Taliban. Look at the Boers. The Boers were a ragtag army of farmers. Yet they beat the British Army. Sorry?
Don't knock farmers. There's 200,000 of us in the UK, and most of them
Precisely. Well, yeah, but you think no, they were a ragtag army. Yeah, but you think about it, I'm not mocking farmers, but they were a ragtag army, and they beat the British. And the only way the British could beat them was a scorched earth policy by putting their families into concentration camps and burning their crops and burning their houses down. That's the only way they could beat them, because they're almost invincible. Now you think of how many of us against the arseholes, and I think they're demonic. I really do think those in power are demonic.
Oh, yeah.
But then I suppose one of the things we are fighting against is the spraying that we get every day. And of course, that I guess is a bit more of a challenge. I suppose what we need is somebody who's within, who knows the pilots who are doing this. Presumably they are piloted and they're not just being controlled.
They are pilots. I've met some of them. They are pilots. Look, I'll give you a tuppence worth on this, right? If we wanted to stop the aeroplanes, and I mean wanted to, they fly out of 3 particular airports in the UK, and I don't condone the point of breaking into an airbase and causing trouble, into an airport and causing trouble. But for fuck's sake, how many people would it really take to stop them aeroplanes flying if we didn't really want them to? Because they only use about 12 planes. Well, you only want one brick for an engine of a plane, and it ain't no more good. So, how hard would it really be to get into 3 or 4 airfields if you really wanted to? People escaped from Alcatraz. People have escaped from Coldix. With the best will in the world, if you wanted to get into an airbase, you would get into one. People have done it hundreds of times. They just haven't had that. As the population, we have not yet had the desire to try and challenge it.
Oh, I see people, the Palestine Action people that went into the weapons factory and did the vandalism. Yeah. That's the kind of thing that can happen. That's a threat. Now, it's a big threat, and that's why they make such a big deal about punishing them, because they know that if you did that sort of thing, you would stop war crimes from happening.
But look at the transmitter stations for the BBC. That needs to be closed down. Yeah. Or we take them over en masse, so we let the people out but not in, and we go in and we transmit truth. That's really what it needs: people with knowledge of how to do it, and we've got the masses to do it. I mean, when you think about it, Steve, they've taken the weapons away from us, but by sheer mass alone, some of us, but by sheer mass alone. I mean, how easy? I thought that you could only have shotguns if you're a member of a shooting organisation in this country. I don't know what the...
No, as long as you've got land, you can apply for a shotgun licence.
Really?
I still think... One thing, I still think that if you stopped aborting your children, you would have... you wouldn't have the problem that you're having, because 1 in 2 pregnancies end up in the baby being killed. Come on.
Well, Patrick, it's not just that. I've got a friend who's a whistleblowing midwife, Victoria Ricks, and she's a love, and she talks about how many kids are dying in the delivery suites. So if you go back 100 years, how many women would have had a baby in a hospital? Nobody.
Home birth. Yeah.
All home birthed. Now you go to hospital, there's all sorts of implications. And what's the quickest way to to break the natural cycle of a woman having a baby is to have a cesarean. And the minute you have a cesarean, you've taken away the bond between mother and baby. And that's why now 58% of all births in the UK are all cesarean.
Yeah, and also not to mention the the birth control, as it's called, contraception.
Yeah.
If they just stop doing that, you have children. And even if you're poor, it seems like the poorer people are better off the more children they have, because they have many hands make light work. That's the problem that you have. If you don't get over the demographics, you're not going to solve the problem.
But of course, the other side of that is that when a child is born, they go through like 20, 30, 40, 50 things beginning with
You don't
V.
have to, though. You don't, like we were saying, home birth. You get out of that system. Find people who won't do that.
Look at the Amish. The Amish are quite...
Look at the Northern Irish Catholics.
Oh,
the
yes.
Protestants used to be the big force, but they did birth control, and then the Catholics don't, and then they became larger, and now they're both, kind of seeing that the Muslims are coming in because they're having more children,
and they're getting together. But
That's how they play the game.
I mean, I'm totally against violence, but I'll be very straight there. But I'm totally
of course
against
not.
violence.
We're not talking about violence.
But
at all.
the trouble is that that's the last thing we want is violence. But the trouble is, I think we should just, by sheer force, saying, right, we're going to do this. You don't represent us, government. You're demonic. We're not having demons representing us. We're representing ourselves, and I think that it's like a gorilla coming out the jungle. A gorilla won't attack you. It'll just come out the jungle and beat his chest and run back in the jungle again. It's just, and they say that if you get attacked by a gorilla, don't run. You just stand there and stand your ground, and they'll back off.
Seneca.
And this is what we need to do: stand our ground, and they'll back off.
During the early Roman Empire, Seneca said, "All men are slaves to fear," and then Saint Augustine said, "A man has as many masters as he has vices." So, like we were saying before, morality. You practice morality, all of those things disappear because you're going to have strong virtues that you garner by stopping the vices that you practice. So it's a moral problem as big as anything. Like there's no progress without the moral order.
That's right. And,
well, I think that's why they've done such a good job, isn't it? They've broken our moral order in the UK. Well, I think Western civilization as a whole now has pretty well been broken up, hasn't it? That's the moral order is no longer in existence. And I think that's now one of the challenges we have is how do we put that back in?
I don't know if you know, Mark, but I along with Nathan Lucius, we have a channel, the Occult Academy, and this is about educating about the occult. Part of what we're talking about is in that book. What we advocate for is something called natural law, which is fundamentally aligning one's behavior to the moral the moral laws of nature, the laws of nature, which again, these are immutable. That means they can't be changed. They're inherent. They act everywhere, and they apply to everybody equally at all times. These laws cannot be. The word law itself is regards a right, and these rights cannot be changed no matter what you try to do. This is why the world's in such turmoil, because what's happened is we have now got an illegitimate system that's tried to become God on earth, gods on earth who call themselves the government or leaders, who subverted an understanding of our appreciation or inherent appreciation of something called natural law. So we've largely forgotten it as a species. Natural law is forgotten as a species. But what it relates to is morality, just as Patrick says, but not morality as in terms of, some people will liken morality to the 10 Commandments. Now, the 10 Commandments are internal vices. And I'm not saying these are particularly a great thing, but if I eat pork pies all day and I'm gluttonous, well, gluttony is an internal vice. Nobody else is going to be harmed by me eating pork pies. However, if we change that into what's known as transgressions against natural law, of which there are 7, so murder, assault, trespass, rape, deceit, coercion, I don't know if I've mentioned them all there, but if we, on theft, if we partake in any of these, we are in breach of, or we are transgressing natural law, and there is consequence to every action that we do. This is a fundamental law in nature. It's called cause and effect. So every time we do something that is out of alignment with natural law, there is a mitigating effect caused by our circumstances, by our behavior. So
it affects
the point
you
I'm making is,
and others.
Yeah,
sorry,
exactly.
I just wanted to make a comment about your gluttony thing. Yeah, you become gluttonous, but at the same time, you're responsible for your family, and you become fat and lazy. You're not going to be helping your family any either. So it also affects other people, these vices.
Yeah, Yeah, I get that, but that in itself is a transgression of natural law. It leads into transgressions. So internal vices can develop into transgressions because, just like you say, if you become fat and lazy, you're not providing for your family, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, totally with you on that. But eating pork pies all day is not the same as condoning theft or violence. So
Right.
the point I'm making is government. The word government means mind control. So if we've got an organisation who have claimed responsibility and ownership of the human race, of society, that in itself is a transgression of natural law because nobody possesses the right to rule another. That's slavery. So we are slaves, even though most people don't feel like slaves. We are de facto slaves by nature of the fact that we've got a government mind controlling us into believing that their laws are legitimate. In reality, none of their laws are legitimate, but we condone it. So this is a big thing. Society needs to change its understanding, its perception on spiritual matters so they can grow in consciousness to be able to affect change in the world. And until we realize that our actions, such as condoning the actions of government, are harmful to society, because we are all condoning things like murder, assault, violence, theft. This is a standard practice. Government can't exist without violence and theft on a daily basis. Taxes, theft, and in order to uphold laws and to maintain what the police would do to maintain law and order, you can only maintain illegitimate law and order through use of force. That's an act of a transgression.
Like Seneca said, fear. You have every man's a slave to fear, and if you drive out that fear, you're no longer a slave to it. Like the government, like you're saying, like the need for government. If you are afraid of these things, you're going to say, "Yeah, protect me, Daddy Government." But Seneca also said, "Perfect love drives out fear." So love is the answer to that. Yeah.
Now, Alex Gorgeous has got a question. Sorry, mate. There's a question coming up for you. So, you all right? You finished? Or, sorry. Yeah. I was going to say, Alex Gorgeous said, Steve, are there any repercussions for the evil ones? They're getting away with it. That's a very good question.
Well, I mean, if you're saying the evil ones, that's a great point, and this probably sounds a little bit flippant what I'm saying here. Essentially, nearly every member of society is amongst the evil ones because we condone evil through our deeds, even if it's just by ignorantly allowing government, because we don't know any better, to do what they're doing. We're allowing evil people to do what they're doing. I mean, people are concerned about the Epstein files. The Epstein files is a massive distraction to keep people off the scent of understanding their natural inherent birthrights, to understand natural law. If people don't understand natural law and the truth movement, well, the Dumbo sleepy population are never going to get it, because there's going to be nobody who's ever going to be able to teach them these concepts.
Yep.
So when I say concepts, these aren't concepts. This is truth and principle, which is determined through logic and reason. This is a science. It's a science of hidden reasoning and philosophy that most people can't comprehend, simply because it's been eradicated from education, and it gets a bad press in public opinion. People think the occult means evil.
Yeah, but the thing is, Steve, I mean, sorry, I'll just quickly read out what Sam said. Henry David Thoreau, disobedience is the true foundation of liberty. The obedient must be slaves. Now, he's spot on, but what gets me, Steve, is people don't know who the enemy is. In a war, conventional war, World War II, say, it was the Japanese and the Germans.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. They wore a different uniform, had a funny tin hats. The Japanese were, you know. But the thing is, what our enemy does
is within.
It stirs trouble up between the natives. So what do? You import lots of people in from a third world country to create trouble between the natives.
Yep.
And it's the black, it's the white, it's this religion, that religion, all kinds of things like that. What we've got to do is turn round and say, well, hang on a moment. It doesn't matter whether they're black, white, green, pink, or whatever religion they are. A demonic psychopath is a demonic psychopath, and that is our enemy. And it doesn't matter what colour or religion they are, if they're in parliament or in industry or anything like that, that not all, but again, not all psychopaths are anti-human. It's only a small percentage of them that get into government that are. Some psychopaths do a lot of good for humans, believe it or not. They're not dangerous. But there are this percentage that are bloody dangerous, the demonic ones. How do we deal with them? Because they've been around like a smart fart smell for thousands of years. We've got to deal with it.
We have to be more clever than they are.
We've got to outsmart them. That's the thing. And the fact of the matter is, if we go down to their level, because all they think of is violence and aggression, we've lost.
Well, that's because they want us fighting each other.
They want us fighting each other, and that's the fact here is that, I mean, I've got friends that are all different, different races, religions, and whatever, and we speak openly about everything. There's nothing off level. We can mention any words we want. Nobody's going to be offended because we're mates, so it doesn't make any difference. Mention the N word, any word you want, doesn't matter. Because we're friends. We know we're not going to be offensive to each other because we know who the bloody enemy is. That's the bit. We don't know who the enemy is. It's not clear. People don't know. How do you feel about that? Sorry,
it's like the Chinese proverb. It's better to sit on the mountainside and watch the tigers fight.
Yeah.
Than to fight the tigers direct. So that's what's happening. The people that are controlling things are the ones sitting on the mountainside while we're the tigers fighting each other.
That's right. That's right.
I guess from what I observe, I guess from what I observe, I mean, I go to our local farm shop here, and the amount of people that are going in there now is quite significant, and the amount of stuff that's being purchased. So people are aware that things. The amount of people who now say, "Oh, I don't use supermarkets," or "I try and avoid the supermarkets," because they know that they're being funded by the evildoers, should we say? And I think that's the trick, I suppose, is trying to get people back to a bit like what you're doing, Mark, in that trying to get people away from using supermarkets and actually using your local farm shop and using. That's how we defeat these people. These, well, I won't say word people. These people, these whatever they are.
Well, they're not human.
By basically working away from their system and actually purchasing stuff away from their system. I suppose that's the way I look at it. Is
I think it's a multi-pronged attack, isn't it? The food from my side is just one tiny part of this. Whether that's food, money, whatever it might be, we've got to tighten up how we think. I think that's the biggest thing in all of this. Like Steve said, we still have a mindset, whether we want to accept it or not, as the awakened community, as the truth tellers, as the freedom movement, whatever you want to call it, we still have a default button that every time we get backed into a corner, we go back to the beginning to think how we should behave inside the system. And that's hereditarily built into all of us, and we have a big challenge to get that out of our heads and to really understand. My partner will pick me up on things. What I say, after I might not like it at the time, but afterwards I think, yeah, she's right on what she said on that, because we just have this belief structure built into us. It's in our DNA that we've been slaves for so many generations. Everything you're told as a baby, everything you're taught at school, everything you're told when you go and get a job, everything is about you being in the fucking system. And, you've got to be really, really 100% strong-minded to get yourself out of it and keep out of it.
Spot on.
That's difficult.
I agree with you. So it is very difficult.
There's 2 points I would use quite often in any of the presentation work and what have you, or dialogues on my channel with Nathan. I use the term precision education and a battle-winning mindset. So the battle-winning mindset, well, I mean, I was a soldier, so it comes as second nature in a sense. When I realized I was on the wrong side of history, I used a battle-winning mindset to basically make the switch that was necessary. I served legal notice on the Ministry of Defence. I spoke and served notice on defence ministers and various police constables, chief constables in the UK, along with many other organisations, simply because I had the, I don't want to sound full of myself, but I had the right attitude towards things. And I realised that I can't be defensive, because if I'm defensive, like I said, eventually you're going to trip over, and then when you fall over, you're going to get strangled and trodden on. So therefore, you have to come to some sort of assertion. You've got to go on the attack, so to speak. And I hate to say it, if we are passive and we think that there's, and no disrespect to anybody, and I know Eric still was, openly admit that he once had a sort of pacifist attitude. I think that's great. If we worked in a society that would accommodate that, I think that's excellent. But sadly, we don't, and we've got to be realistic. If there's people out on the attack and there's people wanting to do us harm, which is, to me, it's like, we don't need any more proof. If somebody's polluting the skies, polluting the food, polluting the water, then polluting our bodies with stuff, then that's clearly war crimes, crimes against humanity, acts of treason, all transgressions of natural law, acts of violence that are being thwarted against us. If we are just going to keep paying here's some more tax, keep pumping our kids full of this poison, please. Here's some more money to help pay for all of this poison that you're polluting us with. And then we're supporting, and I don't even know the kid. I might mention this last week. Rupert Law, I don't even know I don't even know what his political party stands for. All I will say is, without even knowing the guy's a complete throbber. I'll have nothing to do with him. And anybody who promotes him, to be honest, I'll use that word throbber again, because you clearly don't understand morality if you can back any member of government. And I hate to say this, but many people in the truth community need some hard truths here. With the truth community, that means we can take some truths. Well, here's a truth. We will always be defeated and enslaved if we support any notion of government. If you're not an anarchist by now, we've got serious morality problems, which is why I say the problems that we're facing in the world are spiritual problems, because we don't understand morality. They're rooted in consciousness, because we don't understand enough. We don't understand things like natural laws. We don't understand anarchy. We don't understand the occult. So therefore, we've got a consciousness problem. Consciousness is about perception, and perception is related to lack of knowledge. So unless we increase our knowledge of these things, for example, many people think the word anarchy means chaos and destruction and violence and disorder, when they don't realize that the word anarchy is what you were born with. You were born an anarchist, and you have to be mentally poisoned in order to not be an anarchist, which is why the word government means mind control. But an anarchist, the word anarchy means no rulers. And if you've got no rulers, then you've got no slaves. And if you've got no slaves, there's going to be less violence in society, because humankind, if they've got some degree of ability to exercise their own conscience, if you can exercise conscience, then you can exercise the difference between right and wrong, because we are ingrained with that inherent ability from birth. But we have to be mind controlled to pollute that. So our enemy have identified themselves. Well, one enemy is the government, and the second enemy is ourselves. So unless you want to take a violent rebellion against the government, but bearing in mind, I will 100% agree with, so I will definitely condone with, if people were to take violent action against their aggressors in the self-defense principle, which is a fundamental principle written into the harmonics of the universe, non-aggression and self-defense. If we're getting violently assaulted by aggressors, then we've got every moral right to be able to defend ourselves against that. And if that means enabling violence, then I will 100% agree with it. However, I will also say in the UK, because all you've got is pitchforks and catapults and the odd shotgun, you're going to fight a losing battle very quickly, and you're going to find yourself on the losing team very quickly. So therefore, the only alternative solution is to work upon ourselves by coming to a better understanding so we can exercise our knowledge to get rid of these complete clowns who are spoiling everything.
You're spot on. You see, the thing is that, Mark, are farmers a force to be reckoned with? I mean, they seem divided.
Well,
from
they
an
are,
outsider point of view, I mean,
they are. But Chris, it's like anything. Every army needs a reason to go to war.
Yes.
Right. And, you know, most armies around the world are led by one person, and that person is going to be the head of the government or the king, whatever it might be. Farmers don't have, at this point, that reason to go to war. Now, I would say, and I've always said this about, you know, the farmers worldwide, we have the biggest amount of equipment, the biggest reason to want to stay alive, to protect what you love, and they are the biggest armed force in the country. And not just this country, every country around the world, the farmers have always been victimized by communism because they are always the biggest force to reckon with. They've always starved people via getting rid of the farmers. It's repeated in history everywhere. And that's exactly what they're trying to do at the minute. If the farmers only did a little bit of research into history, they would realize that their unity and strength, if they realised when they actually take these trucks out and tractors and trailers out and go on these marches all around London, I'm of the mindset, well, if you're going to take 600 tractors into London and you can bring London to a standstill, you could remove the government within inside 20 minutes.
Yes.
You've just got to have the desire to do it.
Yes.
And that's what comes back to what I said earlier. You know, there is, at this point, the population hasn't yet worked out there is a desire to do it. That, you know,
but the yellow vest. But let's face it,
the truth movement can't even agree there's a reason to do it.
Oh, yeah. They're a waste of space.
The Christian churches, there's no unity. No. I mean, there is a unity in Christianity, but what I'm saying is that as far as these problems, there's no unity, and that's what you need in order to do anything about any problem. And I look at, you're right about the farmers. Look at what's going on in Gaza. All of those attacks on the farms and the settlers and that kind of thing, and the big bulldozers that they bring in to go, you know, bulldoze people's homes, and the weapons and the airstrikes. It's amazing what could happen if they brought that all home here, where we're at a distance from all of that, and yet we support it. The same with like Ukraine. Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe, or continental Europe, they say, and it's all over the prime farmland that's there. I was near there. I saw it. The farms are just amazing. What's that?
Isn't it? That's why they're doing it.
That's why. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
control
why
of labor, control of people.
Absolutely. You know, what they achieved in Ukraine, they've got rid of millions of Ukrainians. No, they've got rid of millions of farmers.
That's right.
They've crashed the biggest place for producing good quality food in the world for such a small area. You know, so, and as I say, it's been done time and time and time again through history, and it's just history repeating itself. And the naivety of the population is that they don't know their own history, let alone even history from overseas.
What about the yellow vests in France? Now, they were mainly farming folk, and they didn't have a leader, and they were incredibly successful until they were infiltrated. And of course, along came this.
The unity there again. They didn't have the unity in the lockdown, like you said. They're clever. There's always someone more clever that come up against them, and more suicidal in a way too, because they don't always look out to the future. And just like the war in Ukraine, it's suicidal for them to kill all their people in the war.
Oh, it is.
But they're not thinking about it.
Well, Sam says, and this is probably a question to you, Steve, anarchy means without a ruling class or without a ruler. Am I wrong?
No, it essentially means without rulers. So that would entail a ruling class or any form of authority, because all men were created equal in the eyes of God. So therefore, if we want to oppose God's laws, well, then you have a ruling class, then you have a king and a queen, then you have a Rupert Law, and you have another bunch of numpties.
But you always have stronger people. The problem is you always have stronger people and weaker people. It's just in nature, just like in animals.
There's always going to be someone leads the pack. Always.
But
In that case, I will challenge Rupert Lowe, the King, or Trump. I'll challenge Trump to an arm wrestle. So
There you go.
if I win, does that mean I will then take the hot seat and I can become a practicing Satanist like these clowns?
But
If we've got stronger people, then we need to be stronger of mind to avert these lunatics from dictating how we live our lives.
And well, as Rocky Road to Love said, what you're saying about the farmers, Mark, same with the Holodomor and Irish famines. Yes, right. And the Irish famine, they say it's without potatoes. No, the British Army went over there.
Or the Great Depression in America.
Yeah.
We had the Great Depression.
Yes.
The Dust Bowl and all of that, where people stopped farming. It's the same type of thing, and it's the same type of genocide.
Absolutely. It's always the same playbook. It's just, it might be delivered by a slightly different preacher, but it's always the same playbook every time.
Yeah, you're right. And Exo says, would Steve call the Bizzies, I don't know who the Bizzies are, if his house got burgled? Oh, what a buzz.
All right. Well, that's a great question. Can I answer that with a swear word? Right.
Certainly.
I fucking hate the cops. So the cops, I wouldn't call the cops if my head was on fire. I wouldn't even call the fire. Oh, well, I'm a bit late for that. I wouldn't call the cops I wouldn't call the cops if my house was getting burgled. This is what I would do if anyone wants to come and burgle my house. If I'm in it, kiss your life goodbye, because there's going to be a pitchfork through your face. And if the cops come, I'm gonna say the cops are just thugs in uniform. If a thug came to my house and he tried to F with me, I would give him the bad news. So if a cop came to my house, I would give him the bad news. And I particularly don't like the cops. So I don't know if that answers the question. So can I just caveat that with all cops, if you're watching this, you need to resign. Get into work tomorrow and resign, because you're on the wrong side of history and you're a effing loser. So that's what I would say to the cops. I'd say that to the soldiers as well. Even though I was a soldier and most of my mates are soldiers, resign, you complete cowardly numpties, you stupid, dumb Fs. I'm pretty sure you can guess the sentiments of my conversation.
Excellent. That's what we like. And Warhol Rex says, we had 30 depressions before 1900. And actually, you're echoing what my late father, you see, he's a very peaceful man, my dad. He's very much a pacifist and that. But he was in frontline intelligence, and they had the highest casualty rate during World War II because they went ahead of the front line. And he was the lowest rank, I hasten to add, and he got into it because they had such a high casualty rate. And they were taught unarmed combat, but more about unarmed combat than the ordinary squaddy. And he was walking down Euston Underpass. He used to work there one day. And there was a couple of thugs that were going to mug him. And one of them said, no, better hold back, because they could see he had rather square shoulders. And my dad said, it's lucky they didn't, because they wouldn't have been able to have children afterwards.
Go for the weakest point.
He showed me unarmed combat. It's a bit eye-watering, isn't it? Now, does Steve have his own podcast? Steve has. He's got his Telegram channel, which I think he's now tapping into the chat as we speak. Haven't you, mate? You got a Cult Academy
and the YouTube channel.
And the YouTube channel.
You and Nathan.
You and Nathan, and you've also got you got a Cult Academy and Survive the Apocalypse. And you get silly sods on there talking about bicycles, don't you? Yes, I'm talking about bicycles. Yes, I got a thing about bicycles, you know. And by the way, what do you think of slime? I'm going against having slime in my bike tyres, but anyway, that's another subject.
I don't use it, but I am at this. In fact, I've just recently started a YouTube channel, Survive the Apocalypse YouTube channel. I've only got one video on there, and it's pretty. But I'm actually in the recording one based on using bicycles as survival tools at the moment, but I'm very slow, so
I'll be on there because I'm getting into there's an Australian, sorry, New Zealander, who swears out or buy fold up 20-inch wheel bikes. He reckons they're the best in the world. Cheapo ones. He doesn't pay more than say $30 or something like that for one, and he reckons that you can take them anywhere. But
he worked for the American military, didn't they? They used to put them on the backs.
Yeah,
when they were parachuting in little motorbikes and things, little tiny things.
Yes, and but anyway, if you like to, I'll try and put it to the bottom here, and I'll put it on my Telegram channel, so you've got all the links there. So there we go. That's if I remember for tomorrow. But now, what is the road forward? I mean, the way I see the road forward is we develop our own communities, supply our own food, and ignore the bastards out of existence. You know, and if 20 of their thugs turn up, like the police, 40 of our peace, PAC officers turn up, and politely to tell them to go away. And there's something I noticed when the yellow vests were very big. I've said this loads of times before, and I think it might have been in Marseille or somewhere like that, because there's palm trees all over the place. They set up an ambush, and I think it must have been somebody with military training that had taught them. It was brilliant. One lot ran, the police, or the gendarmes, or whatever you want to call them, ran after them, and they were running down a passage, and suddenly they stopped, turned tail, and the police realised they had been trapped. And the crowd came in at them. And they're very polite to them, and they told them to remove their helmets and then their name and address, because they will be held responsible for and they will go to a people's court in future. And they had their photograph taken, helmets off, and then they made a gangway, and the police were free to walk away freely. And the nerve, these police were shaking like a leaf. They're all big when they got all their gear on, but when they take their helmets off, you could see the nerves. They were shaking like anything. The crowd didn't lay a finger on them. Very highly trained. And it was a bloody clever set that what they did. And as I say, somebody with military training must have shown them how to do it. And by the way, someone said I look like Bonio or Bono. I bloody well hope not. Can't stand a bastard.
Bono.
Bono, bleeding tit.
Do you know, you mentioned ignore them out of existence and build your own community. Well, all I would say to that is Waco. Do you remember that? Waco, the 19th of April, the Feast of Moloch, which is a sacrificial offering by fire, which is exactly what happened to, I don't know, was it 60 odd people, including women and children, who were completely brutalized by the American federal system.
Was it FBI went in there? I don't know if it's the FBI or the military, wasn't it? I can't remember.
No, okay. Let me tell you a little bit about that. David Koresh was the cult leader. He was trained in artillery by the Mossad and the IDF. He was taken over there, and he learned Talmud and all this kind of stuff, and he flew the flag with the hexagram, if you look at the photos of the compound. And I think he was set up and to do that and to make an example. And there's a lot to it. You should look at listen to old William Cooper broadcasts where he gets into that. I don't know if you know William Cooper, but he does a lot of the occult type stuff like you're into. And the Freemasons, he was big into exposing that. And,
no wonder they got all wiped out. Now,
he went off the reservation. I mean, he got out of control.
Yes.
So I would actually say the government were out of control because they've got no rights. I mean, and I'm not kind of defending. I mean, I take on board all the things about his connection with a certain country or certain organization, which of course is I mean, the very motto is something by the art of deception we do war.
Right. But what I'm saying about David Koresh was he was set up, and the people that actually started it from Australia, and they're part of the B'nai B'rith. We were talking about Freemasons. They were part of B'nai B'rith that set up David Koresh, and they were the ones that said he was loading up with weapons and all that kind of stuff, and then started it.
The fact that this was conducted on the 19th of April, to
me, they do that kind of thing.
Yeah, because that is the Feast of Moloch, which is an important sacrificial holy date.
They're Moloch worshippers.
Yeah, and the Moloch worship is about death or immolation by fire, which is how that sacrificial ritual culminated into death by fire. So I would,
and it was worse than that too. They were machine gunning children.
Oh yeah,
it was worse than just fire. Yeah.
But this is how rituals are conducted in plain sight in the modern world, and many of these rituals, satanic rituals, are what war is a satanic ritual. This is why I speak openly and against the military, because most soldiers haven't got a clue that they're just being set up into a satanic bloodletting ritual. They haven't got a clue. But the powers that be know the dark occult, and they know how to sanction these events and turn it into bloodbaths by means of false flags and make it happen on purpose or let it happen on purpose. This is all part of their strategy. This is why secret societies, if we want secret societies who tell government how to operate, well, if we don't want secret societies screwing with our lives, then we need to be of a savvy enough disposition to take on board morality and act upon it through our actions and behaviors to bring about that better world, which can only be garnered through being in a position of higher consciousness. If we're acting like, when I was an ex-soldier, I had my ex-soldier Dumbo head on, and I haven't got a clue what's going on in the world, nor do I care, then, well, this is where humanity's at. We've all got a similar mindset. We're all brainwashed imbeciles who've got no idea what's going on, and most people don't care, or they don't care enough to do something to change it, which means making personal sacrifice towards, right, that's just clearly broken. It's poisoning everything. It's screwing everything up. We need to, give it the old Archer's blink and give it the elbow. So that takes determination, a battle-winning mentality, and it takes a precision education based and centered upon natural law and morality. That's it. End of discussion. That's how we save the world. The end.
By the way, I put your dooflop along the bottom there. That's all right. And it survived the apocalypse with Steve. And you've got, and he's also got a cult academy. If I can show the bleeding thing, here it is. A cult academy on Telegram. That's it with Nathan. And Nathan has also left a message about what has he left a message about? I bleeding lost it. Where is it?
He said the occult triggers people. I've just seen that. So if the occult triggers people, this is what I will say. Most people understand what geoengineering is, the chemtrails. Well, and most people are against it. Well, the UK's chemtrail program is called Satan, SATAN. Stratospheric aerosol transportation and nucleation. I mean,
you couldn't write it, could you?
You couldn't.
They make it so blatantly obvious, but people still don't see it. And I've had this discussion with. I've got two mates. One who is waking up, and another one who's completely fast asleep. And we were at Leicester a few weeks ago, and I was saying, one of my mates said, you can see what they're doing. You can see they're making the storms as we stand here watching the trains. And the other mate said, no. He said they're not doing that. You bloody see it. You can bloody see what they're doing. But I don't know why whether people are on different levels, that some of us can see it and some of us can't.
That's right.
Whether are they in a different world to us?
Somebody should make
a documentary and do time lapse video. I'm sure they do it, but
they're out there. Yeah.
Now we got.
I think the problem is that for a lot of people, surely that if they're in the position that they suddenly have to come out and admit to themselves that's all going on, it goes against everything they believe in, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
What happens is that they go into sort of a kind of self-denial.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Cognitive dissonance. They're sort of. I mean, I was trying to explain to some of my neighbours. the way the Rockefellers had taken over medicine and turned it into an oil-based thing. And it was kind of, I was speaking the same language, but I was on a completely different wavelength.
Yeah.
Totally different wavelength. And they're just sort of, huh? What? No, you just go to the doctor and he gives you lots of pills and makes you know.
Yeah. They took over the education, and the medicine follows because the education encompasses everything. You can control the minds of children. That's another reason you need to homeschool. And then a lot of these farmers and these people can do that kind of thing because they stay near the home. And I hear your broadcast with the farmers, and they're all telling about how they have to keep mending their fences and watching after their animals. Well, people like that are going to stay near the home. And that's what you need, are people to take care of their children, keep an eye on their children wherever they go and look after them. And it's good.
When you look at, that's right, but sorry, I didn't mean to talk across you there.
It's okay.
I was going to say, these government types, the communists, they live in shitty cities. As city folk, they do not understand the countryside. And when you look at the communists in, well, just look at the Soviet Union. They lived in shitty cities, and they actually sent university students out to tell farmers how to farm. Generations of people that knew the ins and outs of everything to do with farming, and twats from cities who knew nothing about farming to tell them how to farm. That happened in the Soviet Union.
I don't know if you saw my video I put out this week. I put out a video and one of them was DEFRA spent 650 million. Oh, so 65 million pound. No, sorry. 650 million pound on paying Brazilian farmers to produce food for England, and they spent £650,000 on getting some experts in.
Yep.
Experts to guide the British agricultural minister, DEFRA effectively, in what they needed to do, because they admitted that they haven't got anyone there with any experience, so the decisions they've been making are wrong. So they paid a load of experts, and I put out a video saying how many farmers would have given them their expert advice for nothing to save taxpayers £650,000, and it was pretty unanimous, I've got to say. But you just think to yourself, this is what we're up against, because there's no comeback on them as civil servants for spending that £650,000 incorrectly. If you said to somebody, there's a death penalty if you piss that money up the wall, what our taxpayers have done this for, they would quite quickly double check the figures and start asking questions before they spent the money.
Spots on.
It's for lack of knowledge that my people perish. And it reminds me of reading about the Pillsbury family here in Minnesota. And how it worked is you had these stockbrokers on the stock exchanges, the commodity exchanges. And there was a stockbroker for every farmer in Minnesota in this area. And the sad news, you'd get some stockbroker showing up in the office with a sad look on his face, and he'd say to the other stockbroker, "What's the matter?" And they'd say, "My farmer died." You know, that's how the city works versus the rural areas, and the lack, like you say, there's a lack of communication between the two. But I think it's integral that the farmers do make contacts in these cities, because those are the biggest customers. Like Charles Lindbergh Sr. used to set up hunting expeditions. They'd get quail and all sorts of birds, and then they'd take it by rail and send it down to Chicago, which is their biggest market. But then the politicians step in and they want their cut. That's what ends up happening.
Well, it's like us getting a grant, all us on this show tonight, on writing how painful childbirth is. Isn't it, really? You know, we wouldn't have a bleaking clue. As men, yeah. You know, and you'd have all these lovely, what do you call it, all these bleeding LBGG, whatever they are.
The alphabet family.
Oh, yeah, the alphabet family. Oh, yeah, all day shit. I mean, what the bleeding hell's going on? I mean, just bog. Did you see that Anna speaking on YouTube? I think you know her, don't you? Whose husband went into hospital, and she said, the husband said when they phoned him up, and said, "Is he a man or does he identify as a man?" Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, does he identify as a man? I mean,
is that Anna the Russian lad?
Yes. Is she Russia? I didn't know that.
She's brilliant. She's absolutely fantastic. She's sold the ball is untrue.
Yeah.
I'm doing an interview with her Wednesday daytime. Yeah, she's lovely.
Really? And what gets me, I mean, does he identify as and these people are supposed to be health professionals. I wouldn't put myself in their heads.
Yeah, you got. I mean, it's got to be. Surely, it's got to be a mental health issue, isn't it? When someone identifies as a cat, or I identify as a woman just because I've got a dress on doesn't make me a fucking woman, does it? It's just they're all.
You're right. I mean, there are a very small minority, an extremely small minority, 1 in a billion, I think it is. It's phenomenally small, who feel they've been born in the wrong body, and I feel very sorry for the genuine ones. But they're a very small minority that the people that genuinely got a problem. I feel, I really do feel for them. I think it must be terrible for them.
I think that comes back to Patrick's point earlier that this is just another way they've stopped people in reproduction. The reproduction of the human race. Because they've convinced people that it's okay to be gay, it's okay to be, a cat, whatever it is. My son's 10, and one of the boys in his school was upset because they wouldn't put a litter tray in the room for him. This is what we're up against.
It should be in a bleeding padded cell. That kid should be in a padded cell.
Every day the kid goes to school with his tail tucked in the back of his trousers. And got his, his pointed ears on, and the fucking teachers allow it. It's like, can you imagine any of us, if we'd have ever gone to school, would you have had any friends? Would you have,
do the kids take the piss out of him?
The kids go and pet him. They go and give him a rub every half an hour, You just imagine when we were kids, your mates coming across and saying, "No, they're there." They'd have just ripped you to bits.
You'd have never made it back to the coach alive.
As a result of it.
And I think that this idea of us going to war with Russia, what is it, Steve? I think the first art of war is surprise, isn't it? Well, it'd be bleeding surprising for the Russian forces to say, what are these people acting like cats for? And why are these men dressed in women's frocks? What the hell? Communist? No, sorry, they're not communists anymore. Yeah, I mean, let's face it, they'd kill themselves laughing. Perhaps that's the idea. Save on bullets. Let the enemy kill themselves laughing.
Can you just imagine if they did national sign up now and they said to everybody, all the guys would be turning up with their fucking nails painted, wouldn't they? For to go and do their national service, they'd turn up with nails painted, a vape hanging out of their mouth, a nice pair of sneakers on it, and they'd be going like, "You want me to kill somebody? Oh no, I can't do that."
Yeah, but the point is, Mark, they get the instruction. Can you go and shoot up the enemy?
I like that.
I'm confused.
Would that be the Queen's Battalion, wouldn't it? The one shooting up the enemy.
Shut up the enemy.
Hello. No. Mind you might force the Russian army into retreat if they run along going, "Hello, Onky Tonk Cooey. Oh, I do like your weapon." I mean, I've got a psychological warfare. They're parachuted behind Russian lines and they go and criticise their curtains. I think that's the thing, isn't it?
Shock troops.
Yeah. Russia, go to the Russians. What do you think? Oh, we were bloody upset about our curtains being criticised.
Do you think there comes to a point where we just, as the civilization, we have to just accept we're fucked and we just should give up?
It does make you wonder sometimes.
But I mean, I'll be straight with it. That kid that thinks he's a cat, don't the other kids beat him up or take the piss?
No, they go and rub him every half an hour to make sure he's all right. They give him a little coat. Honestly, it's just, this is what we're up against, guys.
Really?
These teachers that allow that to happen are sick.
They want us emasculated.
Yeah.
But then, do you blame the parents for that? Because I suppose ultimately that's where it starts from, doesn't it? Because, I mean...
Well, they abandon the children to the public school system is what the problem is. Yeah. There again,
so they lose their own,
your children.
Don't take responsibility, basically.
Exactly.
Does the kid...
Because you pay taxes,
right.
They think that they deserve it. And it's like, no, you're missing out. Especially the women. They want the women to work They want them out of the houses, and you've got 2 incomes, and your children are going off to these indoctrination centers, and being petted like cats. And come on,
Maybe what
no rational human being would do that, but we do it.
Do they feed him kitty cat? Seriously, do they give him kitty cat on a plate? Does he sort of eat the bleeding kitty cat?
Well,
yes,
there is a possible way around that, Mark. Maybe you could ask somebody else in that school to identify as a Chinese takeaway.
That's crackers, isn't it?
On that note, gentlemen, I'm conscious of the time. It's 20 to 11. I'm going to bed.
Yeah. Cheers, Mark.
Okay, Mark. Well, we don't finish till 11. So, Mark, before you go, are you free tomorrow?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I
And
dare you.
righto. And I was wondering whether we could look at survival. How we can
should.
survive. Yeah. We've got the right man here. No, sorry, the other way. No, it's the other way. Isn't it?
That way.
That way. You got the opposite way because the camera. Got the right man here. No, it's not Jeremy Irons. No, that's why not? 8 o'clock. That'd be a bloody good show.
I can do
Anyway.
that. All right. Look forward to it, gentlemen.
Thanks, Mark.
See you
tomorrow. Thanks, mate. Bye.
Guys, bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah, that's bloody good. I'm sorry, I just can't get over that. A kid, can you imagine that, Steve, when you was at school? I mean, he wouldn't have.
This is the problem.
Would have survived 5 seconds.
These teachers are allowed to groom the children to be homosexuals and all these degenerate types that they're promoting. That's what they want. And since the homosexuals don't reproduce, that's all they can do to make more of themselves is by grooming the children, and that's why it's so bad. I mean, it's you got pedophiles running this stuff. That would who in their right mind would do that to a child? No one.
I agree with you.
It's quite funny in a sense, but really, I mean, it's just mockery from the secret societies who essentially run the world. Governments don't run the world. Secret societies do. We have an occultocracy, which means that the real controllers of human destiny remain hidden, and they act in alignment and partnership with secret occult orders that don't have the best interests for the human population at heart. And what they've done is essentially, I mean, our society, I'm talking about Britain here, but I could probably equate this to certainly America and Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, all the 5 I nations, or in fact, probably all of the rest of Asia as well. We are products of a society that's been subjected to something called cognitive warfare, which is an act of a psychological manipulation to basically degrade society and demoralize them. So it's known as debility and duress and degradation. That's what we've encountered. Something that may be of benefit to some listeners is something called Biderman's chart of coercion, which is essentially how the whole of the health emergency from 6 years ago, that was the playbook straight out of Biderman's chart of coercion. And
Really?
this was, yeah. And I mean, I put a little note in the chat earlier on YouTube. I mentioned that it wouldn't have been possible because without British taxpayers in Britain, and I'm just talking about Britain here, in Britain alone, in the first year of the health emergency, taxpayers funded £170 million just on paper-based propaganda. So I'm talking about things like the posters you get at bus stops, posters you get at doctors' surgeries, all of that kind of thing, government-based propaganda.
Really?
They call it information. They'll call it information. Really what it is, it's propaganda. It's to subvert our understanding in order to degrade and demoralize us. So that poor kid who identifies as a cat, he's been degraded and demoralized beyond compare. I talk about a battle-winning mindset. A battle-winning mindset is what you need to counteract psychological assault. So if we're getting attacked psychologically through shite on the TV and the news and all of that stuff, well, stop watching it for a kickoff. Why is anyone watching the TV is beyond me. Anything on the TV is
I agree with you.
dog crap. So, especially in the news is the worst or the best form of propaganda ever invented. That's what the news is. It's
social engineering.
Social engineering, northeast, south, or west and south. Social engineering from all angles, so we can be degraded by propaganda, with a little snapshot of something interesting every now and again to keep people interested. So why are still funding? Why did we fund 170 million pounds a year to get ourselves mentally assaulted by lunatics?
I agree with you. But mind you, look on the bright side. A parent of that kid who thinks he's a cat, it's not going to cost them much to feed him with a tin of kitty cat each day, is it?
They can just throw him out in the streets and some other neighbour will feed him.
Yeah, feral. He might become feral.
So you're trying to get through a cat flap of a night, like in the evening. Why is your child trying to get through the door? Oh, well, he identifies as a cat.
Mind you, are they going to take him to the vets to get doctored? Because you can't have too many of those human cats around.
Well, yeah, back to the whole contraception thing.
Well, do you reckon his name might be Simonese?
But seriously though, that kid needs to see a psychiatrist. There's something wrong with him if he thinks he's a bleeding cat. I mean, it's just I feel sorry for kids today. I really do. At least when I was a kid, a boy was a boy, a girl was a girl. There was only two sexes, male and female, and that was it.
Still is.
I say it still is the same. It's just that society's, or they're being programmed to think there's something else.
Yeah, there is something. But I'm wondering whether it's all the old jibby shoved into them when they're children. Because when we were kids, we didn't have the amount of.
I think it's a spiritual problem. I need all of these other things are secondary. Because if you're a lot of the people that do this to their children are messed up spiritually in their head. It's a matter of their soul. It's not.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. A spiritual problem is centered upon morality, and morality is directly correlated to freedom. So we don't have any freedom. We've got to grow an increasingly totalitarian system, and it's going to get worse. We've seen the game plan for the year 2030, so we know it's going to get worse with the various things like digital ID and digital currency and 15-minute cities. And of course, if anyone thinks that's a good idea, you've got to be absolutely depraved.
Oh, that's right. Bonkers.
But if we don't want that, we need to work on these spiritual problems. And if spirituality is a measure of freedom, which is centered upon morality, well, that narrows it down. So I mean, I'm not the only one saying this, but we, as an occult researcher, the occult is about understanding the dynamics of the human mind and about understand the dynamics of how this correlates directly to the way nature unfolds, the microcosm and the macrocosm. So if we understand spirituality as a measure of freedom, which is centered upon morality, well, morality is the thing that we need to work on. If we don't want to come to physical blows with our enemy, let's just say our enemy, so enemy forces, the government, etc., authority, who are doing all these things, well, why are we funding our enemy? We wouldn't do that to the mafia. If you were paying the mafia, well, protection money, I mean, fair enough, you might, because you'd be under fear of reprisals if you didn't.
But we're paying protection money. It's called council tax. That's protection money.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, very quickly, Nathan's asked, how long is this show? I've got my rule here. I think it's about that long, actually. Yeah. It's about
how long is a piece of string?
Yeah, it's about that long, Nathan. So I hope I've answered your question there. Right. Next question. Sorry, mate. Carry on.
So if we understand that morality is part of that factor, then morality is something that we need to work on. Other than that, if you want to go to direct blows with the aggressors, so we know the government, for example, are the aggressors, and they thwart their violence through the police and the military. Well, do we really want to go toe-to-toe with the police and the military? Bearing in mind, I used to be a soldier. and I wouldn't want to. My pea shooter and my catapult would not stand much of a chance against my workmates, put it that way.
No.
In America, so this is where I really admire the likes of Patrick and the Second Amendment that you guys have got. The reason why the UK, Canada's obviously been disarmed when on the 22nd of, I believe, I might be wrong, I think it was the 22nd of March, the Satanic Season of Sacrifice, with some of the incidents that went on there. Same as New Zealand, the 22nd of March, the Satanic Season of Sacrifice, because they work to the unholy calendar. If we know that these work to a satanically aligned calendar and they conduct satanically aligned rituals, and then the Epstein files come out, and you realize half of these people are doing stuff that they shouldn't be to young children. Why is anybody supporting this in any way? I mean,
I agree. I agree with you. Yeah.
We need more people to snap out of it.
It is a superstition, as Larkin Rose says, but Albuquerque says, I think if you ask most people, it would be apparent most people pay under duress. Is that legal?
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Which means it can change. We could turn it around. What we need to do is, like you, Steve, you were there, you were that type of person, but you changed, and we can see that people can change, and we can hope that exactly. And instead of, because we all get sort of hard opinions about other people, and say, oh, this person's that way, they're always going to be that way. Well, no, you can convince somebody to change if you present the right things to them, like you were presented with. You came to a knowledge of the lack of morality in people, and you saw it in yourself. You said, hey, wait, we need morality and virtue if we're going to be able to have a better society. And what I'm doing is got to change. So I got to quit this. I can't take the jab. I can't, continue on promoting people that do. So I'm going to leave it and sacrifice. You have to be able to sacrifice for a greater good, and you do that by stepping away from it. You might have a better job opportunity by doing that, or even a lesser. You might be stepping down to a lower standard than you were used to, but I think God presents that to us for our own benefit, for his own benefit, first of all, but he knows what's best for us, and we might not always think it's right at the time.
That's spot on. Sorry, I didn't mean to go over there, but at 3 minutes to 11, we actually automatically come off of Food for Thought Radio, which we're on at the moment. So nice. I just thought I'd warn you there. So what'll happen if we're mid-conversation, I'll have to rudely cut in and say goodbye to...
Yeah, be rude.
I'll have to be blatant rude, Yeah. Now, what I was going to say is I'm going to try and get Mark Pastrio and Jerry Mowinski on the show. I've
heard the name Pastio before. Who's he?
I think he talks about non-government, doesn't he? And what's his name? Jerry Mowinski. He was a psychiatrist in American prisons, and he realised that schizophrenics were actually speaking to demons, or demons were speaking to them.
Wow! Yeah, well, I've heard of that kind of thing.
It's very good. And by the way, Mark Anthony says, "I think we finish at 1 a.m." Well, you can stick up, mate, to our 1 a.m., but no, it's 11 a.m. Thank you there. And now we've got this David James Memorial Award for people who stand up for what they believe against the masses. Okay?
Who's David James? Sorry to butt in.
That's my late father. And yeah, and I didn't want to put the full name in because I thought that sounds a bit conceited in many ways.
Okay.
But my dad stood up against a lot of people that were against him, and as you know, Monica and Alfred Schaefer won it the year before last, and of course Steve won it last year, and so they can't go into it this year. But who we've got who's going into it, and it's going to be put on my website as well as the Telegram channels, and that is Father Morsley, Larkin Rose, E. Michael Jones, Dr. Meyerhill, Candice Owens, and Ben Emlyn Jones, and a person I forgot is Richard D. Hall. Definitely going on there. Now, I don't know who Veritius Vinicit is. I'm going to check him out on YouTube. I think he's on there, so I don't know yet.
I've got Richard D. Hall's Telegram contact if you want it to get him on.
Oh, that would be brilliant. I've actually met Richard D. Hall several times.
Did you? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I haven't got his contact number, but yes, please. That's fantastic. I hope he's okay. We haven't heard from him from a long time, and the BBC went for him, and he has got guts. This is the thing. What I think we should do. There isn't a prize apart from a fuckable pencil, I suppose. Pencil. You haven't received it yet. Yeah, it's in the post. Of course, believes that bullshit. Believe anything.
He was the head of architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. Richard D. Hall.
Was he? No, I don't think he was.
Is it the wrong? Am I thinking of somebody
it's the
different?
wrong one.
Then?
Yeah, it's the wrong one. And
He
quite
definitely
honestly,
spoke it.
I would not
okay.
want to speak to the head of engineers, architects and engineers against 9/11 because
No,
the man spoke a load of
for 9/11 Truth.
truth. Yeah, and he spoke a load of bullshit. He was a typical office architect that had never been a site architect, and he'd never stepped foot, I don't think, on a building site. And most of the time, he's talking crap. I hope that again. I don't want to sound conceited. I don't want to sound rude, but quite honestly, what you're saying a lot of was impractical. And I'm sure he's a brilliant architect in an office, but
So we're thinking of two different people then.
Well, that's right. Yes. Now,
okay.
the thing is that there's a big difference between a site architect, who are normally technicians, and an architect in the office, because a site architect is boot and braces and swears a lot. Now, apparently,
I'm thinking of Richard Gage. Excuse me.
Richard
Sorry,
Gage.
totally different person.
Peter Hyatt. Now, that name rings a bell. Died last year. Peter Hyatt. Anybody know who he was?
No.
That name rings a bell.
I can't remember.
Yeah, and of course, and then that's Richard Gage. That's right. Yes, people won't get angry until there's a shortage of food. Yes, there'll be no shortage of shitty carbohydrate foods. No shortage at all. You'll have plenty of that. Crisps, shit, but decent food, there'll be a shortage of. We are 6 missing dinners away from a revolution. And demonic... Here it comes.
Thank you.
Good night. Food for Thought Radio. And thank you very much, Food for Thought Radio, for joining us. And good night.
Wake up your mind, fill up your day. Oink, oink. Smart little bites that brighten your way. You're listening to Food for Thought Radio. Here at FFTradio.com. Cluck, moo, oink.
That's it. Thank you very much. That bloody well worked a treat, didn't it? Now, we're still on Rumble and YouTube. So we've just gone off of Food for Thought Radio. And it caught me by a bleeding surprise. I say, be prepared, 3 minutes too. And it's spot on.
We need to get Paul to do a more gradual fade in, like a minute or so long. But yeah, that was good.
That was bloody brilliant. I like that. And we're going to have adverts. So I'm going to have a word with Mark about adverts at the top of the hour. And I was going to do a funny news. I think we need that. We do a news
pre-recorded thing?
Pre-recorded, yeah. We'd take the piece out of the establishment, and something like. But apparently, what's his name? The Prime Minister is supposed to have made a speech tonight at 10 o'clock. Did he really? I couldn't give a shit, really. Oh dear!
What about?
Right?
What about?
Probably his buddy, his bee buddy, Mandelson.
Ali. Or it could
Ali.
be.
Oh, really?
Or it could have been about football, because apparently he and Ali liked football and liked going up the arse every week. Football. As a football club, you see.
Do you know how you mentioned? I mean, think on that thought. do you remember we were talking about Freemasons earlier? And
Yes.
I think Patrick also mentioned about the Knights Templar and how they were fond of a bit of man love. Well, everybody knows what the one-eye symbol looks like. There is a deeper esoteric, a dark esoteric meaning to that as well. Bearing in mind, it's it's a picture of a hole, an orifice. Well, that's what the deeper, dark, esoteric reference is to that one-eye symbology. Yeah. In a Masonic sense, a deep Masonic sense. Yeah.
I really didn't know that. I do now. Do you know? I be straight with you. I like to remain generally in ignorance of what freaky things people get up to. Yeah, sorry, mate. He's going to say.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. It's like eating a rotten egg. You don't need to eat it in order to know it stinks.
No, he's going to say, Mr. Anorak, he was going to say something.
Just
Sorry,
to say,
mate.
well, we know that things like obelisks also represent that world, don't they? The obelisks around the world represent the
phallus symbol.
Phallic, yeah. Yeah, so it sounds like a group, doesn't it? Phallic and his amazing symbols. Yeah, sorry. What were you going to say, Steve?
You mentioned symbols, and just like Anorak said, and since we're talking about Masons, and everybody knows the square and compass symbol, we know that the compass is the
that's right,
sort of upside down V shape, and we know that the square is this shape. I'll have to see if I can get that in. That's what the square is.
Really?
Yeah, it's the L.
You were speaking of the logos, the X.com, Twitter that Elon Musk has. Is I've seen recently photos of that where it's mashed up so that it, you cut it in half and it's the compass and square together.
Oh yeah, the X.
Thing.
Yeah.
And of course, the compass on the Masonic symbol is 47 degrees, and government equals 47. How does White House, President, all equal 47 in gematria? And of course, American Independence Day is the 4th of July, which is 47.
Yeah, right. And that's
we're coming up on an anniversary. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say
that's a massively significant number.
And also, a Bono or whatever his bleeding name is, Bono lookalikes. I got a bit fed up with everything. Looking at Boner or whatever his name is through these bars. Boner, Bonio. But if anybody wants to buy these, not these actual pair, because I've just recently got them off of eBay. They're called. What are they called? No Cry, and they're bloody good. They really are good. But the trouble is, you get a bit sort of everything's yellow, and you can't see there's blue on here. You can't see the blue at all because it's
colorblind.
Can you just put them over the blue light there, because see how much it lowers it?
Oh.
I can see where you're just.
Oh wow! Yeah.
If you're just reading a screen, it's great to put something like that on. But if you're looking around and you're just using it in everyday life, it's probably not the best thing.
Well, the thing is, when I'm cycling, I have to wear goggles, and the reason why because you get, excuse my language, shit in your eyes.
Well, I like that kind for if I go out and I'm cutting wood with my chainsaw. It's nice to have something to protect my eyes with, and you can actually see better with those what's going on. And like I said, especially on an overcast day, there's something about it. An overcast day.
It cost me. They're about $25. About 21 quid. But you've got to be careful. You can buy yellow glasses, but they're just yellow. Those ones are actual the McCoy that really. Apparently they got the highest rating, so that's the reason I got them. But
I used to do a lot of that with filtering with different types of film, because they have outdoor film and tungsten film balanced, and you'd use those. Really? If you were using tungsten film outside, you'd use amber color like that.
A filter on the lens.
Yeah.
That's right.
To get the color balance right.
Aunt Sonny said, "What are those glasses like to drive at night with?" I don't know, because I only came here yesterday, so I haven't tried them out yet. Exo said I should have got a Poundland. No, sorry. Yes, you're going to say, mate.
Just a very quick question. Now, it's probably off subject altogether, but with with the legal world, obviously, I know Nathan mentioned about legal and earlier on. I've been trying to work out why post boxes are red and the Royal Mail vans are red. Is it something to do with...
Here they're blue and white.
Really? It's red over here.
Right, but the mailboxes, it's whatever you want.
Because we had ER, which people think is Elizabeth Royal, but no, it's what the Queen said when she gave somebody to someone. She said, ER, sorry.
I've been intrigued as to why they're red. Is it to do with blood? Is it to do with the flow of the mail? Because I know that...
Or maybe it's easy to see.
That with Royal Mail operatives, they're seen as quite high up in the world. So if you stop them doing their job, you can actually get prosecuted for it and that sort of thing.
Really?
So I mean, it's just a random question, really, just a random thought.
Oh, it is British, and we used to call the British military folk the redcoats. Maybe
That's
it has
right.
something to do with that.
And also, around the corner to where I live, there's one of these mailboxes, as you call them, or post boxes, actually in a wall. It's got GR on it, which is George Royal. And George was, 1900s? I think
King George.
Died in 1911, I think. He
1911. Yeah.
So that's a very old post box. And you do see... And
He converted to Catholicism, by the way.
Did he?
On his deathbed.
And I didn't know that. And do you know Tony Blair?
Tony Blair did, yeah.
Yes. I mean, and Exo says, why have telephone boxes vanished, but not post office vans?
That's interesting because the post office was owned by the telephone company or vice versa, wasn't it? Because the telephone boxes used to be red as well.
Well, you can see why the telephone boxes disappeared. Everybody's got a cell phone nowadays. You don't need it.
That's right. I don't know any.
I remember back in the day, you'd go to a telephone box or telephone payphone, we call them.
That's right.
And
yeah,
just imagine.
Speaking of mailboxes, this might have, and I think it's quite pertinent because we were talking about Freemasons earlier, and this might have escaped a lot of people's attention. But this is how deep this stuff goes. Do you remember that guy, the old fella who was on TV during the massive psyop, medical psyop? He was called Captain Tom. I forget his surname.
The old bloke who was walking up and down his garden or something. Yeah, with his frame.
I mean,
that was a bit of a rip-off.
We didn't get that here.
I'm guessing it was more of a British thing. Yeah. I mean, God bless his soul, whoever he was, whether it was real or whether it was complete and utter fabrication from start to finish, I really don't know. However, there was a post box, I believe. It might have been in his hometown or somewhere, which was actually painted in his honour, but it was painted Masonic blue. It was Blue Lodge blue. And I thought, oh, that's hilarious. But then it gets better because apparently the charity money from that, whatever he'd done, walked around his garden or whatever, he earned 33 million quid. I'm sure that's
bloody
no surprise.
Walking around the garden.
It gets better still because there was a train, and honestly, you're going to have to look this up. There was a train dedicated in his honour, and I'm pretty sure it was probably the same Blue Lodge blue, but the number of it, Anarchy, you're going to love this. It had the number, I forget the exact numbers, but it had the number 666 in it. And I just think that's hilarious. And not only that, I'm pretty sure, I have put this in one of my presentations from years ago, and I can't remember the full facts and figures, but either the date he died or the date this all happened was in line with satanic holy dates as well. And I just thought, this is all hilarious. This is how these psyops work. They embellish so much of their symbolic BS into things. So it just becomes hilarious.
Well, Captain Tom Moore.
Can I quickly mention? That's him,
Captain Tom Moore. Yeah.
I mean,
thanks, Mark.
If it was a real bloke, fair play to the dude. Whoever the old bloke was on the TV, probably had no idea.
Nice old boy, yeah.
The scenes. But if you think that's spectacular, I mean, I have to always go back to Washington, D.C., because America, I mean, if anyone's familiar with Manly P. Hall, who wrote about the secret destiny of America, I think it was
Freemason.
yeah, I mean, the whole of America, Patrick, you've probably got a good idea. The 4th of July, the War of Independence, this was all Freemasonry. And I mean, just to show you how deep this goes, if anyone looks at a city layout of Washington, D.C., the home of military power, there's 3 seats of power in the world. One of them's the Vatican, one of them's London City, and the other one's Washington, D.C. D.C.'s the military capital. Rome is obviously the
spiritual bondage.
Vatican, yeah, the spiritual or religious center. By the way, 44 hectares of land, the Vatican, and I mentioned earlier Eminem, Master Mason or Masonic mark, the 3rd degree. The M and M relates to the number 44. If you do a quick sort of gematria a numerology calculation with that, we'll get the number 44 because that's how many days that Jesus or his earthly ministry was, 44 days long. And we see that reflected in many things, such as Liz Truss, who was the prime minister for 44 days. And then when she came out at 12:33, I think it was something like that, 12:33, i.e. number 33 in the time, she stood next to a triple helix lectern, just like the Queen lit a triple helix DNA structure when she done that Windsor Castle pantomime. Again, this is all symbolic. To the average person, it means nothing. To the occultist, you can see, oh yeah, I can see what's going on here. But the point I was making was the home or the center of military power in the world is Washington, D.C. Now, if we were to look at the city architecture, and I know Eric's into his architecture, brilliant city, we can see something called the Tree of Life, the Kabbalistic Sephirot, which rises above what's known as the Illuminati Owl of Congress. So Congress, if we look at a plan view of where Congress is, that sits into a perfect precision-built owl structure, the shape of an owl. It's 88 foot tall as well. You know, there's meaning behind everything. But we've also got, and this is something that Anarchy mentioned, this is what the word obelisk means. The obelisk means the shaft of Baal, the phallus of Baal, because this is who they worship, Baal worshippers, Moloch worshippers, Satan worshippers. That's why the shaft of Baal in America, the Washington Monument, is 6,660 inches tall, and it's 666 inches wide. And above that is the White House, and the White House sits at the lowest apex of a gigantic inverted pentagram, which is a sigil of Satan, and it points directly to the White House. And people think Trump is going to save you or save them. The guy sits in the lair of the White House is named after the lair of Ishtar, who used to devour the souls of men. It was called the White House.
Of course,
nothing's a secret.
Of course, DC is it's a different country anyway. It's District of Columbia, isn't it? And so it's like London. The city of London is not.
Yeah, and the same with Rome. UK. All 3 of those are famous ghetto areas. Really? Rome, London, and Washington D.C.
And we all know that if Trump doesn't do what he's told, Benjamin Netanyahu would just release a bit more information on the Epstein files.
Right, and the Epstein thing is just like tip of an iceberg.
Yeah.
Of that sort of thing going on all over the world, and in these small towns, and anywhere where there's one of these synagogues of Satan, as the Catholic Church refers to, the Freemason Lodge.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do. They set up shop, and they get all of the politicians and the heads of the fathers of the towns and villages, and they morally corrupt them and get them blackmailed, and that's how they hold the power over these small areas.
That's right.
As well as the big.
I'll have to head off if that's okay. 'Cause it's
Well, I
getting
think
a bit late for me.
we better zoom up. And by the way, Exo, before we go, says, is it true the pattern on UK police cars is Masonic? I don't know for sure, but I would assume it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
They're
sure.
blue and yellow checkers, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, and Nathan has
Are they?
said,
Yeah.
I've said since the beginning, Trump is in on it, and he is the establishment. Right. All part
Yeah,
of the satanic
100%.
Epstein shite. Spot on there, mate.
Mhm.
And on that note, thank you very much, everybody, for being on the show. And join us tomorrow night for a survival show on how we're going to survive from farmer, from army person, and me. There's none of those.
You've got your Sharpie at the ready.
But
That's
I've
right.
got but me armed with a Sharpie. Here we go. So, that's it. That's not if I'm not arrested.
The Wonder Pen is mightier than the sword.
That's it. On Wonder Pencil, complete with
Pencil,
a razor
you
on
got-
the end. There we go.
Yeah.
See, there we are. So anyway,
I'm moving to what? I'm going to Wisconsin because Patton's
Yeah.
got a gun.
Yeah,
Yay!
come on. Yeah, we
Yes.
got plenty of places to go and
Yes.
forage.
That's right. And over here we got guns, but they got a little flag that comes out that says "bang." Actually, don't mention that too loudly because the British Army be doing them for saving the environment, isn't it? Because you've heard the latest, you're going to have electric tanks. Seriously, to save the environment.
Are they? Oh, dear.
I mean, come
You
on.
come back in 4 hours after we've charged it. I'll tell you what, that is the funny thing locally here. They've put in a load of charging points in town, and next to it is a diesel generator. Can you believe that?
Yeah, they
I
got
believe
yeah,
it.
they got that
People
in.
park their cars with plug their car in and think, why is there a diesel generator here? They're fucking thick as shit.
Well, an electric tank, that'd be a death trap. You hit the
be.
battery, and you know how those electric cars go up in
Yeah.
flames. Yeah, terrible.
But what's it? Can you do with a Sharpie anyway? Aunt Sally, next time I see you in Miles's place, I'll give you a demonstration. Of what Steve showed, what you can do with, and it's very simple, isn't it? It's a very you could do a lot of damage with a shot. Seriously, do a lot of damage with that. So,
Oh, yeah.
And that's Steve, his survival thing. So there we go. And thanks to Steve. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. Join us tomorrow night at 8:00. And as anything you'd like to say, thank you everybody in chat. You've been absolutely fantastic tonight. If you sent me emails or anything like that, if I haven't answered, it's because I'm an ignorant sod. No, it's because I'm overworked. But thank you very much for everybody, and I believe in answering everybody's email. And anything you'd like to say, Steve, before we go?
Hey, thanks for listening. I know I've flapped my gums quite a lot tonight. Thanks.
And Anorak on Patrick, thank you very much for joining us as well. Anything you'd like to say, gentlemen?
Yeah, thanks to the chat.
It's a pleasure.
It's always good to have people listening and participating.
It is.
And
Thanks all.
and also thank you very much, well, Paul, because Paul's not here at the moment. And whatever happens, put your old thumbs up. Please subscribe. Check out Steve and Nathan's channel as well. And whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh. And good night.